Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew, and this is the second to last of these videos that we are making. And you may be asking, I've seen comments already, are you going to do this for Jurassic World Evolution 3? No, we're not.
Are you sure?
Maybe, do it all again.
Do the whole... Re-rank every dinosaur. There might be a model, like a minor model change. Presumably we'll do something if there's new animals in the game, so I hope they don't add any.
If.
The trailer's going to come out.
Just released Jurassic World Evolution 3, and it's Jurassic World Evolution 2 again. That's it. It's just the second game.
They're gonna...
That would be funny.
This video is gonna come out this weekend, and literally the same day the trailer for Jurassic World Evolution 3 is going to come out. And it's like, it's 3 times as many dinosaurs. It's a 300 species roster. We've added 200 things.
We're going outside the box. We are adding the first 3 animals that they are revealing are Kuru, Jungursuchus, and Ixtatosaurus. And it's like, oh no!
You know what? Fine. I would like to see how they can fuck Kuru up for this game. I think it would be interesting and creative. But anyway, we're talking about something else right now. And what we're talking about is Mosasaurus. And I won't be talking about that very much, because instead Amelia will do that. However, before I allow Amelia to speak, there are a few things that I need to talk about. The first is that you can show support of the Skeleton Crew in various ways. You can like the video. You can comment on the video. You can even just pay us money directly on the video, because that's a feature YouTube implemented for some reason. I think baffling. You can leave a comment, but it costs you money. But you can also join our Patreon if you really want to support us. It goes a long way. We thank our patrons at the end of every video and give them a ton of benefits. We really appreciate all of their support for allowing us to keep doing what we're doing. Now, pursuant to the point of people supporting us financially, the reason I'm not yet allowing Amelia to speak is not that I'm Dr. James Napoli, a research instructor at Stony Brook University, but that I need to transition us into an ad read for the Sternberg Science Summer Camps, which we've previously talked about on the channel. At this point, so this video is going to come out, in like May 2025?
Presumably.
Sometime mid-May, I think. Not even mid-May. Maybe late April. No, I guess it's going to be a late April release.
It's, because Well,
regardless, we're recording this after registration for the 2025 Sternberg camps closes, so it's certainly not going to go up before registration closes. So this is not really intended to be spurring anybody to join in for the 2025 season, because the registration for that is closed. But we want to tell you about the opportunity that the Sternberg camps offer if you are a middle school or a high school student who is really interested in becoming a paleontologist. I am not directly affiliated with the Sternberg camps, and they did not exist when I was in the age where I could have attended one. So this is not an opportunity that I ever had. But looking over the panel of things that they offer every summer for young aspiring paleontologists, it is something I really wish that I could have done. Just the opportunity to learn knowledge and skills that you would need every day in a career as a paleontologist, get experience on a dig site, doing fossil preparation, using tools that like CT scanning and learning statistics, all of these different things that you need to do as a paleontologist. You can get your first exposure to them through the Sternberg camps. They are, run and managed by friends of ours. We think what they do is incredibly valuable, and we're really happy that they've partnered with us to try to spread the word and get more young people who might be watching our videos wanting to be paleontologists their first real taste of being a paleontologist. Now, I'm going to allow Amelia to speak now, because she knows far more about the Sternberg camps than I do. And if there's anything she would like to say about them, now is her opportunity.
So I'm actually going to be teaching one of the camps this summer. I can't say whether or not I will be there in the future, given that this registration will be closed at this point. But just to James's point of these camps teaching practical skills for students that are interested in a career in paleontology, the camp that I'm running this summer will be for high school students. And the premise of the camp is I'm going to teach you how to describe a new specimen. So there is a specimen there's a mosasaur fossil that previous camp students dug up on one of the field courses a couple years ago. Preparation on it is almost done. And so over the course of this camp, I'm going to teach you how to do literature review and identify what kind of animal you have using the museum collections. We're also going to learn how to describe it. So how to write about anatomy and how to do comparative description. We're going to learn how to use programs that are the bane of most paleontologists' existence, like Mesquite and TNT. So how to place this thing in a phylogenetic or evolutionary context. And then this camp just so happens to be occurring when Jurassic World Rebirth comes out. So we're going to go see that movie. And then afterwards, we're going to use that as an opportunity to talk about science communication and how we can use movies like Jurassic World to teach the public about paleontology and science more broadly.
Are you going to teach them how to do that productively, or
yeah?
Oh, wow!
Yeah. So
wow. I would encourage everybody to apply.
Well, that's the premise, right? Is how right. So not to spoil it for future campers in the audience, but the premise is how do we use these movies productively to inspire people to learn more? So we're going to design a science communication project around that. And to spoil this video a little bit, for example, the Mosasaurus in Jurassic World, in my opinion, has been incredibly informative for people and helpful for inspiring more people to care about these animals, to the point where I almost never have to, when presenting my research to kids, like elementary school kids, I don't have to tell them what a mosasaur is. They know what it is, and it's because of Jurassic World.
I think all of us can really attest that when you're trying to develop a career in the sciences, there are always a few roadblocks that people face. Or I don't even want to say roadblocks. Just these are the hurdles you have to go through. The one that I think people know about is knowing academic things, like Alex kind of joked about, reading through Wikipedia pages, knowing facts and things we know about these animals and all of that sort of stuff. And that's stuff that we try to address here on Skeleton Crew a lot of the time, right? How many of our videos are actually we don't know that, or actually we do know this thing, right? That's one piece of the puzzle. It's an important piece of the puzzle. But there's also the aspect of doing the science, right? I have data, or I've found something, and I need to contextualize it and develop an understanding of it. I need to run analyses. I need to test hypotheses, all of that. And if that is something that you feel like you are not able to find information about it on your own, a program like this is extremely helpful, because you will be placed with, depending on which program you choose, you're placed with an instructor who's an expert at the thing they're teaching about. Case in point, Amelia teaching you how to describe a mosasaur, right? There are many people doing this who are all experts in various things, and you can get these practical skills. You can get a taste of research. You can start to find out if research is really something you're going to want to do. And you do that not by doing kind of a dummy project where there's nothing of real value coming out, or you're learning in very, very abstract theory what to do, right? This isn't you're doing phylogenetics with toy dinosaurs trying to come up with a tree for them as they're depicted. This is really learning how to do stuff with real fossils, in some cases, real data sets, and real people who work on them teaching you. And it's an incredibly valuable thing. So again, registration for the 2025 Sternberg summer camps is not active anymore. We advertised that deadline a few months ago, but that's now passed. But assuming that you may be watching this video after that point, you should really look to see if there's registration available for a Sternberg Science Summer Camp program. It is absolutely something that we recommend for anybody who is pre-college, who is interested in getting involved with paleontology.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything you want to add to the ad read?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say that fossil prep is something that they do feature there, and hands-on experience doing fossil prep is the way to get into fossil prep. It's that's how you do it. And being able to, if you are looking to get into a place, if there's a program that's opening up, if there are a competitive internship opening at a big museum or something like that, I mean, and you want to really get your foot in the door, being able to say, like, hey, I worked with these folks and I worked on these fossils doing these things is literally, this is the only opportunity like that I know of.
Yeah.
And I want to also
Pretty
add,
friggin'
like,
cool.
in addition to fossil prep, like, the camps have really a range of different specialties that you can get experience in, because, like, that's something a lot of folks don't know about paleo, is that there are that, like, I would hope you as a viewer of the Skeleton Crew would know this by now, but there's a lot of facets to paleontology that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. Like, there is more to it than research, and that includes the prep part. I think there's a science communication camp this year. The other thing about the Sternberg camps is they are not all located at the Sternberg Museum. Some of them are on site in other places around the country. So I'm pretty sure there's one in North Dakota this year that's hosted by the NDGS. I'm pretty sure there's one in Chicago. I forget which school is sponsoring that one, but there's one in Chicago. There's one. There have historically been camps in California, just like really all over the country, with different people and different expertise and different specialties. So it's basically any facet of paleontology that you could want to get into, like, it's that you can probably find it.
Yeah. And I was going to mention that, and then it makes sense, that because they're not all hosted at the Sternberg, these take students from across the country. They provide housing locally, food, it's a full kind of camp experience in that way. And it's not, you don't have to be limited to something in your local area if you want to apply for that. And I think, if this is something, if you're in that pre-college bracket and you're interested in paleontology, I think, this is a great opportunity. And if you're a parent with kids who are interested in that, or, are younger, but interested in paleontology, and you're looking into things for the future that might support them if they keep that interest. Some kids, when they're really young, they are really into paleontology and then they kind of grow out of it. But for those of us, who end up pursuing it professionally, we never did grow out of it. And I know a lot of parents try to find opportunities for their kids to pursue their passions. And paleo is one of those things that's a little harder to find those opportunities for, beyond, visiting museums and traveling to see museums. It's harder to, find activities for kids who are interested in this, compared to, like, say, like, if your kid's really passionate about a sport, which I'm not, denigrating, but, like, there's tons of programs. But if you've got a kid and they're into paleontology, I'd really look into this, and consider trying to do this in the future, because it is just an outstanding program.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I will add, the last thing I want to add is, because presumably most of you are not living in Hays, Kansas, or wherever these camps are held, they do offer scholarships. Dave Levering, who does a lot of the running of the Sternberg camps, announced, I think just today on his Facebook, that they awarded $47,000 in scholarships to camp students this year, which is unbelievable.
Good Lord.
It's incredible. Yeah. So, like, if you're worried about that aspect of it, of paying the tuition or the travel for the course, like, they do offer scholarships to help with that.
Yeah. So you've got no excuse to not go.
Unless you're in college, in which case you can't.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But then you can apply to be a TA.
Yes.
But yes, so we think that this is a fantastic program. We wouldn't advertise anything on our channel that we didn't believe in. Right. That's not like,
yeah.
Maybe one day we will. Let's see how expensive a loaf of bread gets in the year 2025.
Do you know what we really believe in? Raid Shadow Legend. No,
I personally,
I like NordVPN. But yes, as of right now, we are not in financial desperation that befits us just advertising things that we would not support ourselves. Luckily, with the Sternberg camps, that's not really a concern that we have to worry about. It is something that, again, is run by people we know, run by people we trust, and we think really does contribute something valuable for young folks who are going to be the next generation of paleontologists, right? And I can tell you, we are invested not only in having a good young generation of paleontologists to take over the reins from us as we move forward in our career, but we are actually also desperate for there to be well-educated young paleontologists entering the field, because it will only contribute to the health of the discipline that we, have dedicated our lives to. So we
Indeed.
encourage you as our potential future colleagues to do this so that we can have more productive collaborations with you one day. Anyway, that's the ad read.
Thank
Now,
you
I
for
said this
listening
at
to
the
this ad
beginning of
read.
the ad read, but I'm Dr. James Napoli.
It bears repeating.
It does bear repeating. I am, and I cannot emphasize this enough, Dr. James Napoli, research instructor at Stony Brook University's Renaissance School of Medicine.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History. If my math is right, this video will come out less than a week before that title changes.
Exciting.
Very exciting.
That is
Very,
indeed.
very much.
And my name is Scott Johnston, the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology. And my title will not be changing. It will stay awkwardly long, just like that,
Thank you, Scott.
As God intended.
as God intended.
My name's Alex Rubenstahl. I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University, and my title won't be changing just yet, but at some point in the future.
Indeed.
When we talk about me in the past tense, or hopefully.
We will talk
Yeah.
about Alex in the past tense. He will have died.
Potentially, when someone is signing up for a Sternberg camp in the future, your title may have changed by then. It really just depends on the flow of time.
Right. And its linear nature or lack thereof.
Yes. We'll see if that changes this year. Anything can happen. But something that will happen is I'm going to tell you who I am. And that is Dalton Meyer. I'm also...
Brother, ew.
Brother. I'm also a PhD candidate at Yale University. And I think probably the same math applies then to me that would apply to Amelia. It depends on the structure of weeks, which I'm not at liberty to look into for my own personal sake and sanity.
I can. I'll do it right now.
Don't.
No.
Because together,
We're
Skeleton
the skeleton crew.
Yeah.
Or maybe, sorry. I was just going to say, or maybe you're already a doctor and one of our viewers invented a knife that's so fine that it just cuts through time and they can step through like a cool little time portal.
maybe.
The time knife.
We've all seen the time.
We've all seen it.
Everyone
Wait, what?
knows. You don't know about the time knife?
Am I missing something?
It's a reference to The Good Place.
Oh,
I think-
good. Yeah, it is. That's what the
That's what
villain
Judy
from
sees.
The Acolyte, his character sees it or something, right?
I believe.
No, I
I
thought it
forgot
was
Manny Jacinto.
I don't remember.
Oh, is he the
Been a while.
villain in the Acolyte?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, well,
very
spoilers.
different character.
Spoilers for like the second episode.
Yeah, well, you pick it up pretty quick, but
Okay.
He's also ripped and maskless in a ton of the promotional material.
that's true. They've kind of given up the goat on that. But you know what they shouldn't give up the goat on is renewing it for season 2. Disney, please give me that.
Yeah, it's actually
Give
pretty
up
good.
the goat? Is that the phrase?
It seems
a
to be the
phrase.
phrase.
I don't know if it's precisely what I would use. I don't know if it's exactly correct for the moment, but it's a phrase.
I was giving up the ghost.
Scott, how does that make even
No,
No, hang on.
that is the phrase.
giving up the ghost?
Like died. Like that's died, like it's released its soul, like it's given up the ghost.
This will be very funny
Okay.
if both Dalton and I came. Yeah.
Yes.
Give up the goat seems to be a phrase.
So is giving up the ghost.
Do they mean the same thing?
Now, who is to say which one?
Okay,
Dalton
giving
meant?
up the goat apparently means. Oh, no, ew, not Reddit. The chances that it's probably wrong.
Giving up the ghost. To stop trying to do something because you know it will not succeed.
That's interesting. That actually really explains my last experience with Reddit.
Giving up the ghost or giving up the goat?
Stopping doing something because I realized I would not succeed.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't know if giving up the goat is real. It may just be that this Reddit link pulled to the top of the Google search.
See,
But
that's-
see,
That's
Don't
why you
believe
don't.
it.
That's why you don't go on Reddit.
If you had a
Ghosts
goat,
may-
if you had a goat, would you give it up?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Unless it was mean. But ghosts, dubiously real. Goats, absolutely real, indisputably.
That is
I don't
true.
know.
Intelligence on Reddit,
Also
Not
dubious.
real.
dubiously real.
But this creature, Mosasaurus,
Definitely was
Wait,
real.
Amelia, real?
Who?
Well, only because of prevailing name usage, I think. But sure.
I just
funny.
noticed that you are holding it in your arms.
It's a
Like a
baby.
Now,
Like a
Amelia,
baby.
Yeah.
would just because I'm not done with this bit yet. Do you think you would normally find a Mosasaurus posting on Reddit? Is it angry and stupid enough to do that?
No. They're too cool to be on Reddit.
Oh,
Fair enough. Thank
my
you for your
God.
valuable, for your professional opinion. Thank you.
I
Do you have two of those?
Of these,
Yes.
I technically have 3 because people keep giving them to me, which is not really a complaint that people think of me and give me this. This is the one that I bought for myself, and then after that, a friend at the museum gave me one that she found in the street in New York.
And
That one is staying with the office. The new paleo student Owen has adopted that one.
Mosasaur distribution system.
And then the third one I received from a friend after I said I already had one. And all of them, for toy heads in the audience, all of them are the same base color. None of them were even the cool, darker colored recycled plastic ones. So they're all identical. But this one is the one that I bought. It has a collar on it because I'm stupid with a custom little name tag. Its name is Charybdis. It's been in my office all
That's a good
5
name.
years of the PhD. And I took it home recently because I'm almost done here. So
It is a good
Are you
name,
hoping they make-
Charybdis.
Are you hoping they make a new similar sized model for the new Mosasaur in the new film?
they will, and someone will get me this one again.
I think that's already confirmed that they are.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Isn't the Biden blast one about that size?
That's right. There's a Biden blast one.
Wait, a Biden blast?
well, it's
I have-
Biden,
What is a Biden blast?
It's Bite and blast.
And
Oh,
blast.
but as soon as that got leaked, people photoshopped the Biden blast meme over it. Biden blast.
Oh,
do
there's
know.
a-
Because it shoots Dilophosaurus, right?
Out of
For
its
some
mouth,
reason.
yes.
It does.
Somehow. I want to
What?
know if that's a scene that happens
I
in
hope
the
it
movie.
is.
I do have a
listen,
policy.
listen here, Mac.
That
There
every
used to be
time
someone
I
who's
see
I've
a
hacked this.
Mosasaurus, huh?
Never mind.
He's just doing Biden.
Okay. Every time I see a mosasaur at a store, I acquire it. Although this one actually, a friend of the channel, Nathan Cochran, gave me. He's injured. I'm not quite sure how to fix it. But he like bites. It's got way too many teeth. It's very upsetting.
Oh my god.
my
And
God,
it's
it's
got
like
an injury on this side that like appears and disappears. And I don't know how to fix it. And then the other one, which smells like silicone, which is very upsetting, is this little ugly one.
Ooh.
And if you squish him just right, he's got like bones and stuff in him.
Gross.
And like this horrible. Yeah, this one's really disgusting.
I like that.
These are only the Jurassic ones that I have. I have no less than 6 others scattered around my apartment. But these are the Jurassic ones.
It appears that Lego is releasing a brick-built one for the film.
They are.
I saw that.
Damn, it looks pretty cool.
It looks rad.
$60. What's the piece count?
All the Lego Jurassic, the new Jurassic Legos are all pretty pricey.
Yeah, but I figured those are because they have like molds. This is not.
I want that T-Rex skeleton.
This is a brick-built one. What is this?
What if we looked at Mosasaurus in the game, though?
What if we
Yeah.
get?
I'd,
26
second.
minutes into the recording.
Hey, about 10 minutes of that is
Wait a second. This is a
It's an
steal.
ad read.
is it?
It's
the brick-built
$60 for a piece count of 558. I'm sorry, 858 pieces. That's above that. That's under 10 cents. All right.
Well, there you go.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I sorry, I'm not doing. Lego does not pay me. I wish they did.
They could pay
They're
you in Legos.
a superior building toy, but unfortunately, I'm not getting that Lego money.
I have a Lego I could build. Anyway, let's should we release the beast?
Indeed.
We should release the beast.
Here we go. Cool.
Big boy.
I like how he groans like a very, very old, large man trying to stand up.
It is a
Makes-
very, very old, large man.
Makes big dog noises.
I already have a
Yes.
complaint about the design.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, which is that while they certainly didn't do this on purpose, there is a furrow and a shadow on the underside that makes it look like it has a longitudinal cloaca when it should have a transverse cloaca.
Oh, that's not even what I was thinking. I was thinking it was a mistake because it looks kind of like how sometimes you can tell when a lizard is male.
Oh, yeah.
Dalton,
Wait,
in
how
the
can you tell when
truest sense of the word, can you engage pervert cam?
Happily.
Dalton, show me this lizard's cloaca.
Oh, hang on, I got to get back in the water.
Google. Dalton,
James, to answer your question, you can, at least in leopard geckos, you can tell when they're male because behind the cloaca, there's little bulges for the hemipenes.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Like, they're just, and it's not like absurd, but you can tell.
Now, you say hemipenes, not hemipenes.
No, that's worse. Why would I say that?
I've also only ever heard hemipenes. Oh, crap.
I don't know.
Like, first of all, like, that's always how I heard it. Like, my gecko mentor, Aaron Griffin, was doing a project on hemipene development, and that's always how he said it. So,
I think
oh my God, guys, we're doing the Ian Malcolm line.
we're
Which
looking
one?
at the
Going
dinosaur
out and-
skirts.
Checking out the dinosaur
We're
skirts,
checking. Yeah, your scuba diver is putting mirrors on the top sides of their flippers.
Oh, God. Well, this is, folks, for folks at home, this is not an exercise in perversion, but a
Science.
feature of squamates compared to other reptiles. Other reptiles, their cloacas typically are in line with like the main axis of the body. Squamates are notable in that their cloaca is transverse; it cuts across. This is obviously not meant to be a cloaca. It's just an unfortunate,
But it should have been.
model quirk. But yeah, Amelia, you're right in that. Like, I think it's just that the way that the like flippers meet the body,
Yeah.
make it look like the hemipenal bulges.
yeah.
Is that actually the term?
I don't know.
I
hope it is.
not.
That's a good term. Well, so I'm trying to find something because I remember this was
It
the
is.
first time I criticized a piece of paleo art. And I'm very sad about
First
it.
time?
The first time. I was 18.
I'm gonna stop looking at this.
Um,
But continue your story.
Well, so, and I'm sad because it's one of my favorite paleo artists, if not my favorite. Doug Henderson's piece showing the live birth of a sauropod. He illustrated the mother Apatosaurus with a transverse cloacal slit. And I learned in comparative anatomy that like a synapomorphy of I guess it's Lepidosaurs, or is it squamates in general? Or it's squamates in particular, rather?
I should know this.
I don't remember which way Tuatara's
Google,
go.
show me a Tuatara's cloaca to check for science.
But anyway, it's a beautiful piece of art. It's unfortunately like it's wrong in several respects because it's a sauropod giving live birth, which they didn't do. But it's this idea that Bob Bacher had that Doug was that was illustrating, because Bob Bacher decided this is one of the few things Bob was wrong about. He was like, man, the sauropods had wide pelvises. I wonder if they gave birth to a single offspring at once. And we know they did not do this. No Archosaur has done this.
It's
but
Lepidosaurs
regardless-
have a transverse.
All Lepidosaurs have a transverse.
Yeah.
So he illustrates it with the transverse cloacal slit. I've put the image in the Discord so the editor can splice it into the video here. Beautiful piece of paleo art. Was the first piece of paleo art. I guess I should say I criticized knowing that something was wrong about it, as opposed to me just being like, I didn't like that or like this one more or less.
That's fair.
Now, I also have to say that I think I always read the word peens as peenies. because of a piece of writing I read in college called "The Petals Fall Twice." And right, this is Doug Henderson's other amazing reproductive art that is wrong.
This is the complete opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I love this piece though. This is my favorite. I think this is my favorite Mosasaurus illustration ever.
It's awesome.
It's so sad. It's so sad they didn't do that.
It's got so to give context, the irony here is that the same artist illustrated a mosasaur crawling up on a beach to lay eggs like a sea turtle, which they physically could not do. What I do like is that, like, when I think about mosasaurs and like how they would have been to be around, I think of leopard seals and just like the general unsettling kind of creepiness in the way they move and the way they look, and this captures that in the dark face with a little bright eye. Like, it gives leopard seal, which it's very uncomfortable, but like in a way that feels right.
It's a beautiful piece. I mean, Doug Henderson is I think kind of the GOAT of all paleo art. Like, I mean, I have
certainly
three prints of his behind me. I have another one that I don't even have hung, I think.
He's up there. He's up there.
Oh, I mean, he's amazing. Well, what I like about him is he's one of, I think, an increasingly few number of paleo artists who have a real, like, training as artists and like a lot of chops just as a landscape painter.
His light and color is just next level. Like his book on the Chidley Formation that's like entirely black and white still slaps so hard.
Facts.
And I think he's a very good example of how the be-all end-all of making good paleo art is not really just having the most anatomically correct animals. Because his animals are like pretty good. There are anatomical inaccuracies like the transverse cloacal slit. He is not somebody who's put the highest premium on, like, I need to know all of the details about all of these individual things and, you know, all of this literature. It's, I have to make beautiful art. And he does make beautiful art. And I like that for him. And I like that about him.
Yes.
Anyway.
But enough about art and cloacas. What about this animal here? What's its name mean?
Does someone else want to take that? Because I'll have a lot of other things to say.
Yeah, I'll take it. Sure. Doesn't it mean Muse lizard, like of the Muse River, which is, I don't know what countries that runs through.
I don't know which countries it run through either. And in some, it's sometimes called the Mosa River.
I was about to say, have we been mispronouncing this animal's name this whole time? It's Mosasaurus.
No. It's spelled different ways. It's fun because when you go, if you ever go to Maastricht, which in my opinion you should, I have a great time every time I'm there. It's also sometimes called the Maas, MAAS.
Come on, Europe, get it together.
According to Wikipedia, rises in France, flows through Belgium and the Netherlands before draining into the North Sea from the Rhine Meuse Scheldt Delta.
Okay.
So it basically runs like almost the entire length of the Netherlands, it looks like. It looks like, again, I have bad geography skills, so I apologize. My reading of this map is that it separates Belgium from the Netherlands.
Well, I'll just double check that because like all I've got an extremely
I have a lot of skills, and map reading is not one of them.
Amelia,
I can look at a map of Europe like nobody's business, specifically if it's between 1914 and 1945.
Amelia, where was it found? In what country?
The Mosasaurus, the first Mosasaurus, were found in the Netherlands, and they're named.
Weren't we just there earlier in the video?
Were we in the what?
We were in its nether regions.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Very funny. Very, very funny.
It's not.
It's not.
But I appreciate you.
It's funny.
But anyway, to finish what I was saying, if you ever get a chance to go to Maastricht, which in my opinion you should because it's a very cute little town, and I have had a great time every time I've been there. There's a big like smokestack or something that does say Mosa on it. That's on the river. That's really fun. And there is a restaurant with a Mosasaur logo, which of course, so this year the Mosasaur meeting, which is every 3 years usually, was held in Maastricht, and our little Saturday dinner was held at the Mosasaur restaurant. So we had little wine glasses and plates with little mosasaurs on them.
No
Really
fun.
cool.
I'm just going to confirm the Meuse River does not separate the Netherlands and Belgium.
Okay.
No, but it's. I mean, it runs for part of its course.
close.
It's pretty close to the border. I think there's a little bit of it, or some portion of it may. No, am I reading the borders right? No, it doesn't. It's a little bit north of the border. But there are parts where it's near the borders of all these countries, but it doesn't actually seem to ever be the main border river.
Okay,
I think it's just a tributary.
No, and I know, like, when I'm there, like, I know there's two sides of town. So, like, you cross the river, and you're still in Maastricht, you're still in the Netherlands, so...
Yeah. It's north of the border with Belgium, and then it kind of curves. It's, like, parallels the border between the Netherlands and Germany, and then it, like, passes south and runs through the middle of Belgium. Anyway, runs into France. It doesn't hit Luxembourg, which is not surprising, given that Luxembourg is small.
Yeah. Yeah. It was found. Well, I guess we can get into it. I guess the history of this thing.
Let's get into
because
it.
there's a lot of history.
We should.
In these critters. I don't know. I don't know if it was. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask regarding the species name. Who is the Hoffman of Hoffmanni?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that'll come up in the history.
Yes, that can come up in the history. But honestly, I couldn't. Spoiler. Here's the problem with the history of this animal and these fossils. A lot of the history, or what was thought to be the history, comes from a guy who turns out not a very reliable source, and he made up, or seems to have made up, a lot. But there was a surgeon, Dr. Hoffman, that lived in Maastricht, and I believe he owned the fossil at some point, like the holotype, or what would become the holotype? Question mark. A lot of question marks in this story. But I don't think he found it, but he was a surgeon living in Maastricht that had an interest in natural history. And in Maastricht, or right near Maastricht, I think it's technically in Maastricht, there are these mines with these big, like, blocks that were being quarried. And in the quarrying, people were coming across fossils. And because he was interested in natural history, he's like, hey, let me know if you find any fossils, to the quarrymen, and they did, and they found this thing. There's another character in this story, Göttingen, who is a religious guy of some kind. I also am not clear on exactly what his title was, but one of them owned it. The story was that one of them, it was found on Göttingen's property, so he then, like, sued Dr. Hoffman for possession of it, but there's no legal records of that ever actually happening. So very unclear, other than Hoffman was interested in it and possibly at some point owned it. And I think, like, studied it, but never published on it. But so it was in honor of him. And I forget his first name. I believe it's JL. Sorry, my hesitation is if I open a PDF, as you can see, it blinds me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
You're experiencing what my old department used to be like.
Okay, so one of the main papers I'll be referencing is Street and Caldwell 2017. This is the most recent redescription of Mosasaurus hoffmanni. So they say J.L. Hoffman is a surgeon in Maastricht who is said to have paid local quarry workers to inform him when they discovered fossils during their work. Considered the remains to be those of... Okay, we'll get into that. So that's the only piece of information I have here. And he was the first to propose an identity of this thing, although, again, there's not a source for that, but that's been, again, there's a very complicated history of documentation associated with this animal. But he thought it was a crocodile.
Of course.
So that was our first identification of this thing, was crocodile, question mark?
Well, of course, look at the scoots it has.
Well, yeah, right? Obviously.
Clearly.
It's a crocodile. All right, to kind of back up a little bit, like, near Maastricht, there is Mount St. Peter, which is a mountain by Netherlands standards, which is not really my own joke. This is John Yacht, who's I'm not sure offhand what his role is at the Maastricht Museum, but he's my point of contact at the Maastricht Museum. I made that joke because the Netherlands is a very relatively flat part of Europe. But there's
maybe they should name it that.
Huh?
I said maybe they should name it that.
Look,
If memory serves, the name Netherlands means lowlands.
Well, they
It
do call
could.
them the Low Countries much of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's also why much of it is at risk for flooding, because it is mostly below sea level. They don't have mountains there. They have negative mountains. They have where the Earth is like, I'm going to just go down and make a nice bowl.
It go down.
So it's a
that's what we
mountain in
like
like
to
the
do.
Florida sense.
I think it's a mountain
Yeah,
because
so
it's
it's a
above
big
sea
hill.
level.
But there's a chalk quarry under this mountain, which is really cool. Side note, very cool. There are like these underground, they call them galleries, like where the chalk has been excavated out. And I don't remember the full history of it, but like there's like I think there was a war, and I don't know which war it was, and the war is important to this.
A war in Europe?
A war in Europe that involves the French.
Oh,
Couldn't be.
Right. Anyway, and it was about religion and monsters.
Narrows it down.
I'm trying so hard to remember because there were so many cool talks about this at the Mosasaurus meeting. Like there was a lot of very like history focused talks. But like in short, like some of these galleries, like people were living in these galleries for extended amount of time during the war. And like for so long that they built like cathedrals and stuff like underground. They're really creepy and
That's
really cool.
cool.
Well, not creepy really, but they're really, really cool. It's really
That
dark
is
down
cool.
there.
That sounds cool
But
as
so
shit.
There are these galleries, and these quarry workers are basically taking out blocks of chalk at a time. So there's also some like really like straight angles everywhere. Like it's an interesting space. But this is where Mosasaurus was found. There's the holotype, or the thing that we're calling the holotype, and everyone uses as the holotype, but apparently has not really technically been formally designated the holotype. Cool. Was the second specimen that was found. The first specimen that was actually found is a little bit scrappier, and it is still in the Netherlands. It's in the Taylor's Museum in Haarlem, and that was found in the 1760s. The date I found was 1764, which is about 20 years, give or take, before the second specimen was found. And the second specimen is the one that kind of has all of this crazy mythology, more or less, surrounding it. So when the second one was found, this Dr. Hoffman guy was contacted about it and supposedly helped to excavate it. But again, it's really unclear. One of the talks at the Mosasaurus meeting this year was John Yacht of the museum in Maastricht. Basically, like the entire talk was, we don't know how physically they excavated it and got it out of there because the size, the dimensions of the block that the skull is in does not match with the dimensions of the blocks that are taken out of the chalk quarry. And it's like, it's too big. So like it couldn't have been vertical because it would have fallen apart, but it could have been this. So the whole talk was like, we don't know how they did it. And that was his talk.
This is
really cool. He's like, is anyone? And it was a very interactive talk. Like, all right, who has ideas? Because we genuinely don't know how they got it out of there.
Aliens.
this. Damn it!
Oh, sorry,
Alien-
Scott.
but they do know with pretty good certainty which of the galleries it came from, like where in the mountain it came from. The problem is that it's since collapsed. So the sad thing is the rest of the animal is probably in there, but that gallery has collapsed and is completely inaccessible. But they know where it is. Yeah, and so yeah, like the history of the site itself is really interesting because it was also like the quarry was active, I think still for chalk, but I have no idea. It was an active quarry until very recently, and now it's a park. So like you can hike around in the quarry, and if you get special permission, like if you're there with the museum folks, you can go into the quarry and still find like shark teeth and mosasaur teeth and stuff in there. They do find new fossils of mosasaurs occasionally. They're usually pretty busted up. It's a lot less frequently now that the quarry is no longer active. But there's been some other cool stuff that's come out of there that would have presumably lived alongside this. And also the geology is really interesting in a way that, like, I'm not a geologist, so I can't really explain it, but like it's really well documented in like these layers of I don't remember what it is. I have some. Hold on a second. I have some. I don't know what it is, but I have it because we were allowed to take them because they're rocks. So this black stuff occurs at like these regular intervals, like every 20 feet or so. And that demarcates specific amounts of time that these like layers of
That church.
this. It's-
Wait a minute. No, oh god.
Or is
Is it like... Is it supposed to be like orbital cyclicity? Like, is this Milankovitch stuff? Or like, what are the Varv layers? Is that what they call them?
Those are usually.
Those are lakes typically.
Well, they can be.
Yeah, no, but
they
isn't-
can have in
aren't there-
lagoons, but
Aren't there
those look like
Varvs
church
from the-
nodules.
It could be, but like
What's the name of the mountain?
St. Peter's Mountain. But also, like, so spoiler, that's from the type Maastrichtian. So it is the Maastrichtian is named for Maastricht, which is apparently named for the river, also just a different spelling of the river, the Maas River, which is how I mostly heard them say it when I was there was Maas. Whether or not the spelling is, I don't know. But in certain parts of the quarry where there's these walls that are like, I don't know, 100 feet tall, there's these very regular stripes of this black layer. And
There's like a
again,
rind on that, right?
yep. And
Not
this
much of a
actually
rind
might
on
be
here.
infilling of a burrow of a critter.
Oh, cool.
And that might also be part of it. Like, again, like I wish I retained geology better because it was fascinating. Like, we did the field trip for the meeting was the geology of this area basically. And it was just fascinating. And I've done it twice technically, because the first time I was there, I happened to be there at a time where John took a class of students from the university to the quarry and invited me along. And so I got to hear the spiel, then as well. But basically someone figured out that these layers of black stuff, like, document specific intervals that are the same every time. And so the Maastrichtian is mapped out. The type Maastrichtian is mapped out by like intervals of 20,000 years or something like
Yes,
that.
no, this is orbital cyclicity with monsoonal
Okay.
cycles, I think. I don't know about this example in particular, but I remember from my undergrad geology coursework that they've discovered similar things for the Mediterranean through the Cenozoic, where there's like periodic orbital forcing, where it's like basically that when you've got monsoonal weather patterns, right, you'll get like periodic outflows of material, and you can actually trace like these massive depositional events, I think, to periods where like Earth's precessional cycle, which is approximately a 20,000 year interval, will generate like larger than average monsoons that'll like result in much more sediment offloading.
That's cool.
I forget the phrase. Let me just hold on. It's
And
not
I'm
exactly.
gonna-
I don't think they were considered varves, but it's a similar idea.
I'm trying to find like a better stratigraphy to figure out what that is, because I'm also very curious. Wikipedia mentions that there are flint layers with flint
It's
concretions,
flint. It's flint.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Isn't flint a kind of chert, or am I insane?
Flint is a kind of chert.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a
Yes,
it's all
that
silica
sounds right.
Something.
Amorphous
And, like,
quartz.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive that this is an infilled burrow of some
It looks
kind.
like it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's really cool, and I think I have a belemnite also from there. I have really bad luck for finding fossils. So like I of course was not one of the people to find a shark tooth or a mosasaur tooth. I don't know if anyone found any mosasaurs, but I'm just trying to see. I apologize for being on my phone. I'm trying to see if I have any other
Do you have games on your phone?
relevant geology. Huh?
Never mind.
He asked if you have Gabe's on
Sure.
your phone, Amelia.
Well, yeah, I do. For airplane purposes. As in being on the airplane. My airplane computer game is on my computer, not on my phone. Anyway,
My
the
mistake.
geology is the geology is really cool, and I do wish I like retained it better, but I don't, and that's why I'm in biology and not geology. But it's fascinating. It's a really cool place, and like I said, it's the type Maastrichtian. So just like animals have holotypes, like stratigraphic layers have type localities or areas where, like, the description of that is that that geology is based on, and that is here in Maastricht, and that is where the holotype of Mosasaurus hoffmanni was found, which is pretty cool. So speaking of when it was found, we're going to primarily be talking about the holotype, because that's the main one with all the stories surrounding it. Like I said, though, the first one was actually found in 1764, most likely, and is now in the Taylor's Museum. So the holotype or the second one, the grand animal of Maastricht, if you will, was found sometime between 1770 and 1780. There's a bit of confusion about when exactly. People seem to be agreeing on 1778, I believe, is the number that we've at least, I say, as of last year, as of 2024, that's the latest best guess. I'm not sure entirely why, but the reason for this uncertainty is, like I said before, the person who kind of like wrote up the story of how the skull was found is not a very trustworthy narrator. So as far as we can tell, it was found sometime in that time range. And this guy, let me check my notes here. He spins the story about how it was found on this, the cannon, I think is the title, the cannon Göttingen his land. But Hoffman took it, and then so Göttingen sued him to get it back. And either way, it was on display somewhere for a while. And I think Göttingen had it by the time that it was removed from the country, because it's not still in Maastricht. Göttingen had it. And it was on display so people could come check it out. Some stories, I think this guy's story, so this other guy's story, it's a French name, and I don't know how to pronounce it. But the last part is Saint Fond, which I think I can say correctly. But by the time, so he reports, I think that it was in this Göttingen guy's house, but everybody else from the time who saw it and reported it say that it was on display in a grotto on the property and not actually in the house itself. Which is good because apparently the house itself was bombed or blown up.
Oh dear.
Or something. I guess it wouldn't have been bombed because it was the 1700s, but like blown up during this war, which I don't know which war this is. So one of you presumably will know what war the French were doing in 1780 something, give or take.
So what year was it again, Amelia?
So so Camper describes it in 1786. And so I believe it was removed around that time, but I'm going to try to double check. Oh, it just says, it's on Wikipedia, guys. It caught the attention of French revolutionaries who looted the fossil following the siege of Maastricht during the French Revolutionary Wars in 1794.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so
Well, now we know.
presumably it was removed.
The French kept sieging Maastricht.
Right, yeah, well...
They heard there was a really big lizard there, and they were like, we didn't find it last time.
We gotta have it. Well, so according to Saint Fond, the storyteller, allegedly, the French took it in exchange for 600 bottles of very nice wine. This has been the story for years and years and years and years until relatively recently. Like, I think this paper, at least this paper that I'm referencing, is 2012. So in this paper, this is Peters et al., 2012, where they go through this story like paragraph by paragraph and kind of break it down. And in there, they're like, yeah, no, the heiress, so a younger relative of the Göttingen guy, reports, yeah, no, the French took it by force. There was no exchange; it was taken as a trophy. So the French took it. Rip. But also, like, to be clear, like, I keep saying this guy is not trustworthy. This is apparently not just like an interpretation made by people nowadays that this guy's not trustworthy, but apparently, like, everybody who knew him thought, we're just like, yeah, he's full of crap. My favorite.
We all know people like that.
So this is from Andre Thuin, who is apparently a colleague of this guy. And they say, at the end of his book, he gives a characterization of his companions. He apparently, like, I think this guy, unless there's another guy, I think it was either this guy or another guy. They make a comment like, yeah, he kind of wasn't nice about anybody, but we think he was, but he seems to be trustworthy in his assessment. So I will read the passage from this Thuin guy that is about the Saint Fond guy who wrote the account of the 600 bottles of wine. My third traveling companion originated from the I can't read French, from whatever. He's bragging one could take him for something, great storyteller, lazy, cowardly, gluttonous, and loving only luxury. He coupled knowledge with good memory.
Tag yourselves, boys.
Manners. He knew everybody. He liked everybody. If one were to believe what he said, he was the one who did everything, his colleagues being his mere subordinates. His boasting went so far that he was spotted as one of the foremost liars in the army of 70,000 men, of which a part originated from southerly regions. As for the committee, he was paid handsomely and served it poorly. In amusing blabbermouth, he deployed scientific jargon while having only a limited education in mineralogy and some pretensions to general knowledge.
One of the foremost liars in the military is a weapons grade accomplishment.
This is the prototypical military liar guy.
He was a Navy SEAL before it was cool.
It's
that's so funny. That's awesome.
My dad always made the joke of what's the difference between a Navy Sea story and a fairy tale? One starts with once upon a time, the other starts with no shit, guys, this is how it really went down, and then after that there's no difference.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we have further evidence that this guy's full of shit because he says that he helped find the specimen, this guy who wrote the story, but he was first in Maastricht in 1795, if we recall. This fossil was found at least 15 years before that, so this guy's probably full of shit. And then, like I said, the heiress, the Godding heiress, again, I don't really understand the status of this Godding guy, but someone related to him in that she was an heiress, wrote that, the French took it. And the authors of that paper state, like, okay, maybe there was an exchange of wine given, but we just don't have any evidence of that. And there are varying numbers of how many French soldiers took it, between 6 and 12. Which I can't remember if it was this paper or a different one. I think it was this one that says like that. We can attest to that because the fossil was briefly back in Maastricht in 2009 for a special exhibit. And they said, it took at least 6 guys to move it because it's very heavy. It's huge. It's a big animal and it's in a big block of chalk. So that part at least does hold up. So the second part of the drama here is in the taxonomy and what this thing has actually been called. So when the first one was found up until 1786, it was considered to be probably a crocodile. So between the first one and the second one, and Hoffman was one of the people who called it a crocodile. Although I don't think, to my understanding, he did not publish on it. In 1786, the older camper, because there are two campers, there's a father and a son, said, no, actually, it's a whale. And in 1790, so a couple of years later, we have another person, Van Merum, also calling it a whale. And this is where I say, is it really Mosasaurus? It depends. He names it, I think, as far as my read of the situation, if that's correct, although I could find nothing other than a documentation of this in an abstract from the meeting this year. He names it Pisces cetacea, thinking it's a whale. So
fish
theoretically,
whale, he names the lizard.
Fish whale. He calls it fish whale. Well, and
extremely loud, incorrect buzzer. Right. Extremely loud, incorrect buzzer.
Back then, paleontology was real crude.
It's the upcoming movie about paleontology. Extremely loud and incredibly incorrect.
But that didn't stick, thank God. And then in 1799, we've got our friend Saint Fond, our liar friend. He's like, no, it's a crocodile, which, okay, St. Fond, I don't know what you're not a biologist by any accounts as far as I can tell. So
seems trustworthy.
Sure. And then in 1800, the younger camper, the son of the first camper, says, no, guys, it's a lizard. And he makes that conclusion based on the fact that its jaw is made up of more than one bone. So it can't be a mammal like a whale. And its vertebrae are procoelous. So that means the front part of the vertebra is concave and the back part is convex. And that's something that lizards have. So he's like, hey, guys, it's a lizard. Probably, he states, probably close to an iguana or monitor lizard. So that is our first statement of what
the historic origins of Toxicophora.
And Systematus shuddered, not knowing why.
Right. So, and then in 1808, we get the big description of the animal by Cuvier. who agrees that it's a lizard. And also very important, Cuvier acknowledges that it is an animal that we don't have anymore. It is. I don't think he says it's extinct, but this is kind of one of the first mentions of this idea of things can go extinct, which is ironic coming from Cuvier, who, to my knowledge, did not agree with evolution or like think things. I think he didn't think that things could change, but he thought things could go away.
I mean,
right?
he exists before evolution was widespread and like
right.
He was pre-Darwinian for sure.
Yeah.
But like there were a lot of evolutionary ideas before Darwin, but they mostly didn't like. Sorry for the small soapbox here, Amelia, but this is like the important thing to understand about the genesis of the theory of evolution. Darwin wasn't the first guy to come up with the idea of things changing over time. And this is an important thing that we talk about in all sorts of scientific theories, is Darwin was the first person to propose a coherent mechanism by which evolution could occur. And I hear a lot of pop science stories about like, whoa, well, this person actually figured it out first. To some degree, they didn't unless they know how it happened. So when we talk about continental drift with Alfred Wegener, and he was like, look, South America fits into Africa, the continents move. And everybody said, how the f*** could that happen? And he's like, I don't know, they must plow through the oceanic crust. And everybody was like, that's absurd. They weren't being stupid. It was absurd to think that the continents were plowing through the oceanic crust like the Titanic through an iceberg or something, but successfully. Right?
James, that joke is aging poorly given the new photogrammetry and everything models of the Titanic.
Oh, sorry. What did we learn? Did it not sink?
Yeah, it's still here.
It finally got to New York. It's been circling the North Atlantic for 115 years.
It didn't hit an iceberg. The hole just did that.
The very, very, very short thing that basically there was a new not to have a tangent in a tangent, but there was a new actually super cool research project they did with the Titanic of basically they photogrammetrized the Titanic.
Okay,
it's really cool.
Can I download a Titanic?
And you wouldn't download the Titanic. They also combined it with LiDAR to make essentially a ridiculously accurate full model of the Titanic. And what they found was basically the damage caused by the iceberg was way more minimal than previously known, or than previously suspected. It wasn't that it tore this giant, ridiculous gaping hole in the side of the ship. Because the whole thing about the Titanic was supposed to be unsinkable was that it was designed to have 4 entire compartments completely full of water and still be able to be afloat, which is ridiculous for a vessel of that size. It was just that basically this perforated a hole of like sheet of paper, perforated a line of basically sheet of paper sized holes along the entire hull, along one of the sides. So over 6 compartments were filling with water at the same time, and it was just more than it could handle.
How does this modify what we thought we knew? Like, I thought that was exactly the explanation for a long time, that it was like it flooded more compartments than it was built to handle.
It was basically, as far as I understand, that was the hypothesis, but this is like, we can see it. Okay,
I mean, that's fair. I don't. Well, regardless, I'm not going to get into Titanic Stunlock now.
But when are we going to start using TruthDAR for these kinds of things?
Yeah. I was going to say that seems to me to be the big problem here is we use LiDAR, but not TruthDAR. Anyway. An important no. I'm sorry. I'm not done with the evolution.
We have to return to
the prior Stunlock so you can talk again. So all I'm saying is that like. There are a lot of biologists who are figuring out important things. And I think the important thing to realize is like before Darwin actually articulated natural selection as a means of evolution, there were a lot of people who did think that lineages evolved. And one of the critical stumbling blocks was not even the church yet. Like this is before the church was even like, hold on, you can't talk about this. Many of them were theologians or like, ministers to some degree. Darwin had a religious education only. He wasn't formally educated as a scientist. It was that, like, none of this made any sense. Like, Lamarck is the first person to, I actually think Lamarck is the first person to propose a mechanism of evolution which is wrong, except now as we're learning with epigenetics, it's also right.
Yeah.
But like, regardless, it's more wrong than it is right. That is to say, yeah, Cuvier did not believe evolution could happen, but I don't think that was like, he was too, like, I think a lot of people want that to be, oh, he was like a creationist who was too religious to see it, even though he figured out extinction.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it made sense because he was like, okay, all of these ideas are ludicrous. For instance, what if I told you that, like, I don't know, like X-rays cause cancer or something? And you were like, okay, how? And I was like, well, because the X-ray can go through your body and can visualize your bones get scared. And when your bones get scared, they trigger a defensive chemical reaction like trees on the savannah when giraffes start eating them. And it tells your body to start making new cells to protect the bones because they're afraid that they've just been seen. And you would say, you need medical attention. You
won't get it, but
you will not go get it if you're in a court. But you would tell me you are significantly psychologically ill and you need to see a professional and tell them this. That wouldn't mean that X-rays can't cause cancer. It would mean that I proposed a completely ludicrous reason to think that. But you would not be wrong for being like, that's insane, I'm not going to believe it. That's all I'm trying to say. Right? All of the prior ideas about how evolution worked were wrong.
Did Cuvier recognize that lineages were changing?
No, I think he rejected that, but I don't know. I don't know enough about Cuvier to know what it was, but I don't think it was like Catholicism or like all Christian churches.
Yeah.
Cuvier would have been a Catholic, was also really hostile to the idea of evolution, or to the idea of extinction, rather. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Like the idea that God would allow his creations to die out was considered heretical.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was that Cuvier was like, well, no, the Bible says nothing evolved.
No,
it was. I don't know if he thought that they changed, but I know that he did not believe in any then proposed theory of evolution.
Yeah, and I was not trying to say that he was like doing it for religious reasons. I just remember that was a thing about him, is he proposed extinction but did not believe in change. I said evolution, but like you're right, like a change, because it wasn't called evolution yet.
Was he like a multiple separate creations and extinctions guy?
I don't think so.
Also, where was he born?
France.
Where in France?
Oh, I think Paris, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. Are there other cities in France?
We're exceeding my...
Where did he live? Born in Montbéliard. Oh, he was probably a Protestant. That was a German duchy. Yeah.
Oh, was he a Protestant?
Yeah. Well, actually, hold on. When was he alive? Oh, maybe he was well, I guess Lutherans are... Hold on.
Lutherans or Protestants?
Was... Actually, you know what? I could just ask Google what religion was.
Ask Grok.
Also, I just want to... I typed in what's religion. Some really interesting results.
What did you get?
Where his Protestant ancestors have lived since for the Reformation.
Okay, he was Protestant.
So presumably
top 5, starting number 5. What religion was Gandhi? Not like that's particularly famous. What religion was Jimmy Carter?
Wild
what
to be the
religion
number
was George
2.
Washington? All right, and who are we betting on spots 1 and 2?
Ooh.
What religion is Donald Trump?
Nope.
What religion was Jesus?
Number 2 is what religion was Jesus.
What religion was God?
Nope.
Hitler?
Yep.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. Well.
And the number 6 for some reason is George Harrison.
John Lennon. It's me, George. I think I'm going to be Rastafarian now, John.
Okay.
John?
Regardless.
What's happening?
It's 1808. Cuvier has described the grand animal of Maastricht. He says it's a lizard.
Cuvier.
He says it's extinct. You might have noticed an omission here, which is that he did not name it.
Oh.
Also, I don't think we've fully established at this point this skull is in Paris, and that is where it has remained, with one exception, which was in 2009, I believe, when it was brought to Maastricht for a special exhibit, but it's currently on display in their fossil hall. Which, side note, if you have the opportunity to go to Paris and go to the Museum of Comparative Anatomy, do it. Just do it, because Jesus Christ, it's one of the most amazing places.
What religion?
No. Anyway, it's 1808. The animal does not have a name.
It's 1808. Do you know where your mosasaur is?
Do you know what your mosasaur is called? It is not until 14 years later that it gets a name, and that is by Conybeare, and it's actually not done formally. It's apparently done, I believe, in a letter.
Cool.
But they just run with it. But thank God it's not Pisces. Like, look, we're going to take our wins where we can get them. It's not Pisces cetacei. In 1822, Conybeare calls it Mosasaurus.
God, it'd be so funny.
Where's the species epithet?
Where is it?
We need to wait 7 more years.
Okay,
7 years later, in 1829, Mantell calls it Hoffmanni. There is not really a holotype assigned. Like, everybody's talking about this skull, but because of the way in which it was found and named in this weird, horrible chain of events, I think technically to this day it's not formally the holotype, which is great. But they're working on it. The folks in Europe are working on it. By that I mean like folks like John Yacht in Maastricht and Natalie Bardet in Paris, like the team of Mosasaur people that are over there that are handling these kind of like bookkeeping things, which are important. I'm not saying that to demean this at all, because they're very important. The other piece of silliness that has happened with this animal and its name is that recently, as in last year, there had to be a clarification also written by this team of authors. I think it was led by Anna Schulp, clarifying that Hoffmanni should be spelled with 1 I and not 2, because it was initially spelled with 1 I, and then I think it was quote unquote Latinized to have 2 for some reason, but they discussed that that's not actually how it should have been done, so that's back to 1 now. So 1 I is the proper spelling now for Hoffmanni. And so that's that, and then it doesn't get described again until 2017. The holotype. I think it's mentioned and it's made comparisons to in the 90s. Lingham Solier does a lot of work on the European mosasaurs, and does like a write-up of Mosasaurus Hoffmanni osteology and stuff, but that's a broader comparative thing that's not focused on the holotype. There's some other interesting facts about the holotype, in that there are several bones in that box, like in that glass case with it, that are a different color and that are not described by Cuvier. One of those bones is the quadrate, which is really cool and fun. If you're familiar with mosasaurs, it's a very important diagnostic bone. The kind of thing I'm trying to say without saying is that we're not entirely sure that those bones that are different colors actually belong with the holotype, because they're a different color, A, and B, like they were not described by Cuvier. There's also apparently more of the skull that the Godding heiress, I think Rosa, let me get her name right. Rosa Godding, claims that there are, she assures the inhabitants of Maastricht after it was taken, that she still has in her possession 2 lateral parts of the crocodile, which when reunited with the principal piece in Paris would have completed the interesting petrification. Parentheses. Unfortunately, we don't know anything about the fate of these bones. So there's presumably more of this animal, possibly maybe somewhere. In addition to the presumably more of it that's buried in the quarry. Still, probably.
RIP.
So that's the history of Mosasaurus hoffmanni. It's kind of a nightmare, but also really interesting. And I think because it was found at such a crazy time in history for that region, that's part of the problem. We've got this crazy guy writing his fantasy stories about what happened to it. In North America as well, Mosasaurus was the first mosasaur found, Mosasaurus missouriensis. And it was found, not this one, but there was a thing that was described from the Lewis and Clark expeditions that folks are pretty sure was a mosasaur. Whether or not it was Mosasaurus, unclear. But they described finding a gigantic, like at least 45-foot long skeleton. Which, what the hell else could it be? So they probably found, if I had to guess, probably a tylosaur. Because there's not many Mosasaurus from the US. There's a lot of good ones from Canada, which are also called Mosasaurus missouriensis, although they're not from Missouri, but they're presumably the same species. which I have opinions on that
pretty cool.
I can't share right now. But anyway, that kind of segues us into, I think, the fact that Mosasaurus was everywhere. I believe there are remains attributable to the genus Mosasaurus from almost every continent. Like the only one that I'm not sure about is Australia, which is pretty wild. Some of those remains are just teeth, so I take that, with a grain of salt. Although I think in mosasaurs, teeth are pretty, to the genus level, I think you can be confident about a tooth in most cases. Especially, I think Mosasaurus, they're usually pretty. They have a shape to them that's not seen in the others. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, thank you for that history lesson.
Yes.
Indeed. Super
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, now I would come in and say something about phylogeny, but I can't think of a phylogeny section that I am less qualified for than at least 40% of the people in the crew. So I'm going to do my short version, and then we're going to give it to either Dalton or Amelia. Mosasaurus is a whale.
No, it's a fish.
It's a fish.
Well,
It's a fish whale.
Pisces, it's a fish whale.
It's a crocodile.
It's a bird. It's a plane.
I do like, there's a part of that story when Amelia was telling it that I thought was very funny, which was the first guy found it and he was like crocodile, which in my opinion, completely reasonable. If
I don't blame
you just found this thing and you're like, what the and then I like that a father and son team came in and together, despite having two heads, dumber. They're like,
Whale.
it's a mammal. Anyway,
Well,
so yes,
got it right.
Mosasaurus is a giant marine squamate of some relationship. And there are only two in this game. The other one's Tylosaurus. And much to my constant disgust and horror, the big mosasaur shape evolved 2 times.
2?
At least 2 times? At least 2 times.
It's at least 3.
At least
You
3
can make an
times.
argument- You can make an argument for 4.
know this.
Horrible.
What?
From like Aegialosaur little things. Okay, that's where I'll leave it because other people know more than this. Go, other people, go.
So the next, I want to introduce one more piece of classification that happens. So like we said, so even though Mosasaurus itself is from the Netherlands, from Europe, and there's a lot of really cool European mosasaurs, most of the mosasaur fossil record is the Western Interior Seaway. So after the Lewis and Clark expeditions, the next big exploration of the area for fossils was the Bone Wars, basically. And immediately before that, I'm reading my dissertation introduction because I had to look into this for that. But the Sternberg family and some other folks, including I think Samuel Williston and Benjamin Mudge, did some exploration. And then very soon after them, and kind of as a part of it, were the Bone Wars of Cope and Marsh. So Yale has, I believe, more mosasaurs than anybody else. It's truly ungodly. I think you guys have something like 30 to 40% of all the mosasaurs in North America. Truly insane,
That's
thousands
bonkers.
of
What?
Yum, yum. Let me eat more of them.
them. And that was because, and those are marsh specimens, and then the AMNH and some other coastal museums have a ton thanks to Cope. So what's cool about that is those guys were definitely naming things correctly and appropriately.
Oh, famously.
Famously, yes. But anyway, the important part for our story here is that Cope in 1869 is the first person to suggest that mosasaurs might actually be closely related to snakes in a group that he calls Pythonomorpha.
Wow.
And so you may have heard different answers about what mosasaurs are if they're closer. Usually the arguments made are either they're closer to monitor lizards or closer to snakes. And that is in part a result of there being kind of 2 research groups, more or less. I mean, there's more, but 2 larger research groups that have different opinions about this question. And I say opinions, but these are research, this is research based on their observations and their interpretations and all of that. So I'm not trying to discredit any of it. But basically, there are two main groups. Everybody who works on these animals has a very strong opinion about which of those it may be. I have an opinion, but I think, I don't know, I also recognize that these are squamates. And so I hesitate to be very certain about it, especially because I'm aware of information that might make nobody happy, which I think would be very fun. But
They are
for our purposes, they are in a group of squamates called toxicophorans, which are iguana snakes and monitor lizards and their friends, which is also another group that there's a pattern here. People who work on lizards tend to not agree on phylogeny a lot. But basically, they're in that group somewhere. From a distance, they look a lot like monitor lizards, just in their general skull shape and in some of their other anatomy. But there's some details of their teeth and of their jaws and a bunch of characters really that they have in common with snakes as well. There are also a lot of like these really early, not really that early, but these little noodly aquatic squamates called dolichosaurs that are very snake-like. And there seems to be a connection between dolichosaurs and the agialosaurs, which everybody agrees agialosaurs are related to mosasaurs. I'm pretty sure everybody at this point agrees on dolichosaurs as well. I don't know very much about the dolichosaurs, but my understanding is we all agree mostly that they're also in this zone of going to be a mosasaur. What happens after that is anybody's guess. But like we said earlier, there's at least 3 instances of these little lizardy things becoming a mosasaur. And by that, I mean getting really big and evolving flippers. So within the true mosasaurs, the mosasaurids, so Mosasauroidea includes the agialosaurs and I believe the dolichosaurs now. Mosasauridae is just the big flipper things. You can kind of see a problem here if we have multiple origins of little lizardy things becoming mosasaurs, but that's, again, ongoing. We don't really have enough of the early fossils to be totally certain what to do about that. But basically, there have been several little leggy things, this is what I'm calling the agialosaur type things, found that are diagnosable to at least 2 of the main groups of mosasaurs. So there are 4 groups, maybe 3, depending on where one of them goes. But there are mosasaurines, which include Mosasaurus and its relatives, tylosaurines, which include basically Tylosaurus, platycarpines, which are Platycarpus and their friends, and the halosaurines. The halosaurines are the ones that, like, literally every time anybody runs an analysis, they show up somewhere else. So at this time, it's unclear whether they are nested within one of those other 3 groups or if they're their own thing. Basically, like, they're either, maybe they're early mosasaurines, or maybe they're early platycarpines, or maybe their own thing. No one has proposed that they're tylosaurines, and I don't think that they are. They're very weird and hard to place. And what's cool is that we know that all these groups are distinct, especially like the big 3, or the main 3. We know they're all distinct. Platycarpines and tylosaurines seem to be closer to each other than the mosasaurines are. What's cool is that little leggy things have been found, like I said earlier, that are diagnosable to mosasaurines. So there's Dallosaurus, which is diagnostically a mosasaurine. So it's small, but it has the features that that diagnose the clade of the big things with flippers. So it belongs to that group, which means that there's at least 2 origins of the big flipper monster. And then on the other side of the tree, we have 2 little leggy things that are diagnosably platycarpine. And because tylosaurines, like, they're already diagnosable to platycarpinae in a way that tylosaurines, like, never are, we haven't found a little leggy tylosaur yet, but that means it must have existed. And I hope one day we do find it. And then as for the halosaurians, like I said, we don't really know where they go, but if they do really go outside of all those groups, then that means we have 4. If they go within it, that's easier. Like if they are a platycarpine or a mosasaurine, then we've got 3, which is still ridiculous. I say that kind of offhand, like that's nothing, but it's still ridiculous.
That's I had no idea about this, honestly.
Yeah, and I think as far as I know, they are the only group to independently evolve flippers multiple times. Everybody else, like the diversification happens first, And then the morphology, like seals and sea lions and walruses, like the ancestral pinniped had flippers and had that body shape that was then modified and diversified. What's probably, I still say possibly because we're dealing with squamates and like it's hard.
I heard this the first time at like I think the first SVP I went to, and I was like, gross.
What year was that? Do you know, or where was it?
It would have been in Albuquerque.
Okay. It could have been. Dallosaurus was published in 2005, and that was really the first, like, hey, wait a minute. The Plioplatycarpines are more recent. Plioplatycarpines, like the reason it's technically more recent, but it's kind of known without saying it. That there's a Tethysaurus specimen that has legs, but it's private. So like and it's diagnosably a
that's cool.
Plioplatycarpine. But yeah, so Tethysaurus has legs, and recently, I think it was 2 years ago now, my committee member Mike Polson published on a little thing called Cerobosaurus, which is from, I believe, Utah. That's also a very early Plioplatycarpine, and that paper is really cool. The reason that how they figured that out, and actually, I think that's like in hindsight how they confirmed that Tethysaurus, the other one, was also a Plioplatycarpine, is they CT scanned a bunch of brain cases and found a unique arrangement of the like circulation in the head that is unique to Plioplatycarpines, even like among lizards, which is really, really cool. And they evolved that like really early. Like this thing from Utah is like, I don't know, 95 million years old, which is pretty old. So they're really cool as a group because like, they're very diverse, but they're diverse in a way that's like evolutionarily interesting because they give us an opportunity to study convergent evolution like in a closed system almost, which is really cool. And so, but the problem with this is that you can only study that if the relationships are correct in your tree. And what I'm segueing to here is our my little troublemaker, Yorgi, which is what basically kind of opened, in my opinion, I think should have revealed the fact that our Mosasaur family tree is probably out of whack. So Mosasaur systematics have been studied since 1997 using like modern phylogenetic systematics. I think there was some work like a little bit before that, but the one that really took off was Bell 97. So that was the first like major published character list for phylogenetic systematics for mosasaurs. So that is the like quantitative method that we still use today to analyze evolutionary relationships. And that was the first one to do it for mosasaurs, which is great. The problem is that in the 30 years since that was published, there have not really been any major additions to the character list. There was a lot of work that, a lot of good work, to be clear, that went through it and actually like reassessed a lot of characters and took out a lot of problematic characters. So things that were actually documenting autogenetic change or just characters that didn't hold up anymore. Like maybe it was a misinterpretation of a break or something in a weirdo specimen, things like that. But only in the 30 years, only 3 new characters have been added. So we go from a character. So
well, that's one a decade. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
every 10 years, somebody notices something new about mosasaurs.
Right. So when we were working on Yorgi, I knew it was a mosasaurine, so I knew it was related to Mosasaurus in that group because there's a couple characters that it had that are just like dead ringer, like always associated with that group. So, for example, it's got like this big honkin' eyebrow bone like sticking out above its eye. I don't know how there you can kind of see it. It's got these big honkin' eyebrows. It's got the shape of the lower jaw is very mosasaurine in that it's like very well developed and well excavated for jaw musculature. The quadrate of the ear bone there is very rectangular. It almost looks identical to Mosasaurus. So we're like, all right, this thing's a mosasaurine. That's cool. But we want to figure out like where exactly within there it falls. Especially because it had some odd characters about it that made it look more like an earlier species called Clydastes, known from the Seaway. So Yorgi's from North America, from North Dakota specifically. And so I thought that was very interesting because I say until, but we don't have a new tree yet. The arrangement of mosasaurs in the mosasaurine tree is Clidastes is at the base. There's a slew of prognathodon and globidens, like crusher mosasaurs, basically. And then you get Mosasaurus and Plotosaurus. Plotosaurus is a late, very, very... It's basically the closest mosasaurs get to ichthyosaurs. It's got a really long, skinny, horrible face with a little chin that juts out past its snout. It's really like deep-bodied, and it's really, I don't know how, like the vertebrae are the most locked up of any mosasaur. So basically, it was almost entirely tail-driven, tuniform, fast swimming, or like very good for like open ocean stuff. These things are found in California. Wild. But anyway, those things are sister to Mosasaurus. And so now we get Yorgi, and Yorgi has a combination of Mosasaurus and Clidastes characters. And I think, wow, that's really weird because we don't get Clidastes as sister to Mosasaurus in our tree in the past 30 years of doing this. And as I was going through the matrix, so when we put a new species into an analysis like this, you go bone by bone or through the character list, so the list of traits that can vary, basically, and you're indicating to the computer with number codes which state or which form of the character that your animal has, and then the computer algorithm is able to figure out how the different things are all related to each other based on the codes that you have in the data matrix. And so I noticed a couple of things going through this. One is that there was a lot about Yorgi that was standing out to me, and my co-authors, that was different about it in a way that made it look like Mosasaurus more than Clidastes or more than anything else. These differences were not in the character list. I was like, one of those characters is there's a groove on the maxilla, the upper jawbone, on the inside. There's a little groove, probably for a blood vessel or nerve that runs above the teeth. You can actually see it in the holotype of Mosasaurus on display in Paris. It just runs along the teeth. Yorgi has it. That thing has it. Clidastes does not, and prognathodon globidens don't either. There were other characters that this thing had that nobody has. So one of those is on the underside of the frontal or the forehead bone. There's a ridge that sometimes separates two other bones that like meet under the frontal. In Clidastes, the bones are like really far apart. In Mosasaurus, the ridge is not there, so the bones touch. In Yorgi, there was a very thin little separation. And that's interesting for two reasons. One, that's not seen anywhere else. Two, that seems transitional. That seems like an intermediate in between those two characters. But in the character list, the way that character is written is the bones either touch or they don't. There's no accommodation for variation in the size of that ridge. And I was like, okay, but my job for the paper was describe the animal. My job was not fix the character list. So I did that. I noticed some other things as well, which was that there are a lot of bones that like Yorgi had that I hadn't like seen before, studied before. Like there's a palatal bone called the ectopterygoid that's not accounted for in the character list at all. And it goes even farther. There's other bones as well that were just completely not accounted for. That definitely are different between different kinds of mosasaurs. But I digress. So we ran the analysis, and I'm like, all right, this is probably going to wipe the whole tree out because it's gonna kind of confuse the algorithm, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't what I got, which was the tree was exactly the same, except Jormungandr was with Clidastes, like in a polytomy with Clidastes, which is when you don't get any resolution. It kind of like wipes out at the node. But it was definitely telling me this thing is closer to Clidastes than to Mosasaurus. It's at least nested within Clidastes somewhere.
Well, it could have been outside to Clidastes, right? Like,
yeah, or could have been sister to it. Yeah. So that again, that's why we did not name this genus Clidastes, because it was a polytomy. It was not actually within Clidastes. It could have possibly been outside it, and we thought that the differences between this thing and Clidastes were significant enough. But also because like I have this hunch that it's not going to stay there. But I thought that was really weird because we had all of these characters that, in my opinion, were tying it to Mosasaurus. But the problem was, again, those characters were not in this character list. And if the characters are not in the character list, how is the computer going to build a relationship using those characters? So enter the rest of my dissertation, which is not yet published, where I do try to fix that. did not run the Mosasaurians, so I don't actually know what's going to happen there. But I added a lot of those characters that we noticed and stuff, and I'm excited to see what it does because it did some really cool things to the part of the tree that I did analyze. So that's where we're at. But we get and that's why, like, in the press for Yorgi, like the spin that we took with it, even though our tree didn't show it, the spin that we took was this thing seems to be transitional between early Clydastes like Mosasaurs and Mosasaurus itself in that group. Because again, like in the anatomy itself, even though it's not accounted for in the character list and therefore the tree couldn't show it, that's the way that this thing is trending. Like we don't see those characters in anything else. And there's a lot more variation in Clydastes as kind of a group that I hope one day to get more into. But like for now, like, you know, beyond the scope of the research and all of that. But it's interesting because it seems to suggest, especially with those earlier Mosasaurus missouriensis, like on display at the Terrell Museum, that Mosasaurus is an American taxon, which is cool. Like, it's cool that most of these lineages do seem to be originating here. That's another recurring pattern, is a lot of these early leggy things, like even though the Agialosaurs are in Europe, a lot of the others are showing up in North America, which is cool. But again, these things are marine, so I don't know. I don't really know where they're coming from, but like, there's cool stuff. There's really cool stuff going on in these animals. And I guess to kind of like jump ahead a little bit to Jurassic World, I am glad that it's put them on the radar for so many people, because like it's a very interesting group with a lot of potential. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hugely. Like whenever I give tours of the MCZ and we get to Romer Hall, our fossil hall, literally every single person that I have given a tour to, who is not themselves in paleo or knows a bit about where I work and the history of the museum, as soon as we round that corner and we see the Kronosaurus, they ask, "Is that a mosasaur?"
Yeah.
And then you say, "No, idiots."
The mosasaur is behind you.
Don't you know anything?
It's on the other wall.
This is completely unrelated to anything Amelia was saying. Not really. This is slightly related to something Amelia said a million minutes ago that I've only just now realized that clicked in my brain. But there is another group of tetrapods that has evolved flippers multiple times.
Yeah.
Turtles.
Turtles?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, they
The
have.
cursed
That's
world
cool.
of turtles.
Yeah.
So fitting company of mosasaurs, phylogenetic uncertainty, multiple flipperings.
And they're the only other group that have a stapedial pit in the quadrate. We've got
Oh my god.
We've got a new
Mosasaurus turtles.
hypothesis, folks. They're not
turtles.
squamate.
Shocked
That would be so
turtles.
That would be so cool. That would make
three-toothed
That would make
turtles.
everybody unhappy.
I don't think anyone would like that, which is the sign it's a good hypothesis.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no one
Good
would like the other
hypothesis
one
is
either,
the one that makes
but-
everybody the baddest.
You may have heard of different schools of scientific philosophy. We subscribe to the philosophy of spite.
It is most fun. I want to also I want to jump in for 1 second here, if that's okay. I just want to say that the situation that Amelia has described with the matrix of mosasaurs is one of the most extreme examples I'm aware of in terms of like a group basically just not getting any new character data for 30 years. But is not an uncommon situation in general. Like, and I want to say this for two reasons. One, I think it could sound to somebody who's not really like that knowledgeable about the way we do things, like Amelia did something wrong by not then fixing the matrix while describing Yorgi. This is normal because you want your analysis to be like compatible with previously published analyses. So generally speaking, unless you like are like, the problem here is so vast that I cannot possibly score this in good conscience. It is generally not a bad idea to say, let's just put this in the matrix we're all using so that relative to that context, we know what this is. Right? Revising a matrix is not, as Alex and I learned early in our PhDs, not something you can take on as a task trivially.
No. Everyone thinks it's like, oh,
Oh yeah,
I'll just fix this by revising the matrix.
We'll get in there and
I've done this for a group. And I think I technically started doing it 6 years ago. And the first version of that is published. And every year I'm treated to a time to have a character meeting session. Because it's a shitload of work. Holy.
Right. It takes hundreds to thousands. I tried to tally this up recently. Like, for context, for work that's upcoming, I have been revising the matrix that's used for Tyrannosaurid dinosaurs. You can probably guess why. In that time, God, let me think about the number of hours. It's like a 40-hour week every week I spent in collections somewhere. So that
Jesus.
Right? And I spent a lot of weeks in collections places. So I did 9 plus 4 1 3. So
Folks, just
in terms of a few collections, which I don't think even summarize all of my collections time, they don't actually. I could just add 10 to that. So plus 2 plus. So I've spent 760 hours at the very least studying material firsthand in collections, which does not even begin to approach the number of hours that I have spent poring over all of my surface models, CT scans, XYZ. Right? We are talking about multiple thousands of hours of specimen observation. This is not even including the time that I've been looking at characters. Right? When we summarize just the last 3 years of my life for Tyrannosaurs, it's got to be closing in on 5,000 hours of work specifically to revise the matrix.
Yikes, as the kids are known to say.
Right. What I'm saying here, this is not like a brag or something. Like Amelia's almost certainly spent more time than that on Mosasaurus, just based on the fact that she spent longer studying Mosasaurus than I have on Tyrannosaurs. Like, there's not a ooh, look how cool I am. This is the kind of work that it takes to revise a matrix, right? You need to study everything. You can't just be like, oh, well, that character's not so good. We're just going to dump that. If you see a character, you need to check that and everything. If you don't understand a character, you need to try to understand it. You need to look for new characters. You need to read the literature and see if there are things that have been mentioned that should be included. Kind of like what Amelia is saying, where there are things they noticed that were not sampled. Mm-hmm. Right?
And here's a Skeleton Crew hot take. If you really want to revise a matrix in a major way or build one from the ground up, you have to see the specimens.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The literature is helpful and it can be a supplement. And with the kind of advent of 3D meshes, you don't necessarily have to go see everything if you can get a good mesh of something. But I'm sorry. I'm someone who's written a lot of osteologies. I try to be very thorough in my figures, but sometimes you just gotta, the world of difference being able to do that to a bone can do for scoring a character is night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are... Sorry. Go ahead, Amelia.
I was just to both of your points of seeing a lot of things and all of it. Like that, this is basically what I have been building towards for 5 years. This is so at this point where I'm by your time defending in 5 days. That is 5 years of work at the AMNH. But if you want to include my 2 years at Carthage, like that was also collecting data, and in that time. I don't know. I can't remember if the number is like, it's either 20, 21, or 22 is the number of museums that I've been to. The number of mosasaurs I've seen myself is over 300 that I've collected measurement and photograph data for. And I think there's, and I don't know how many of those I've photogrammetrized, but like, in like the photos that will be appearing here, like probably, throughout this, like especially like the Paris one, right? Like, I made sure I got to Europe. I went to 5 museums in 2.5 weeks and saw, I think, over 100 of these animals.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I didn't count a terrible week and a half of my life. Because I also did 5 museums in 8 days at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, but like just to that point, like it's a lot, and like so, and with Yorgi, like I wanted to still do something because there was another, in my opinion, problem with the Matrix in recent years, which was that the outgroup was changed, and that itself is not the problem, but the problem that I had with that is that the outgroup was changed without reassessing the characters, and the outgroup is used to set your point of comparison. You're setting the context of the characters basically. It's meant to be your point of comparison. And so because the outgroup was changed from how your characters were originally conceived, we re-added we changed the outgroup back to not exactly what it was, because actually what it was in 97, and I think for a while after that, it was a, if I understand it correctly, artificial composite of modern anglomorph lizards, basically, was used to score the outgroup. Which instead of doing that, what we did for Yorkie is we individually scored several different anglomorph lizards. Like, not that I've said it explicitly, but I think you can tell where my phylogenetic leanings go on these animals based on that. But also, I want to be clear, like, that was also kind of irrelevant to that, because the whole point was that was how that matrix, if we're not going to change the characters, we need to keep it within the same context. So regardless of what these things are related to, those characters were written with that outgroup in mind. And so that's actually why, regardless of how I feel about what they're related to, we changed it back to that.
Right. And remember, if you can't find an outgroup you like, store-bought or fabricated in the lab is fine. It's just, yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. And the reason that I say this is, like, some people ask me why I don't like certain phylogenies over others. I think a lot of people are like, wow, look how many characters are in that matrix. That is not always a sign in favor of the matrix, right? Number of characters doesn't tell you, more characters isn't better, always, right? What the characters are can matter. Certainly, am I, like, generally going to lean toward, I mean, there are actual mathematical considerations about how large a matrix needs to be for a number of, like, taxa that you want. I actually remember, Amelia, I'm going to tell a funny story about when you were earlier in your PhD now to embarrass you as on the eve of your defense. This is like a parent at their child's wedding being like, let me tell an embarrassing story. But she was running this matrix and she was like, I added a new taxon and now it won't finish the tree search. And she was like, what the f*** is happening? And I was like, Amelia, you have added too many operational taxonomic units and you are now past the point at which the science of statistics and cladistics is valid. And you have to take something out because you need, I think it is like 1 more than 2 times your number of taxa or OTUs. You need that many characters minimum to, like, resolve a tree. I forget the exact formula offhand, but I looked it up and it's something like that, right? Because you basically, like, and I could go through this as an exercise. We'll do this in a future video, but, like, you just need a certain amount of information to resolve relationships. Right? If you had 4 taxa, you could not get a tree with 1 character. Right? That couldn't possibly happen. You would need, and I think the answer is supposed to be like, you need, I think you would need at least 9. But regardless, the point is, more characters isn't just the answer here. You need to understand how a matrix is built, what your point of reference is, and how much first-hand observation went into the matrix. This is why, and I'll just say this because I've seen comments about this at points from various channels. There are weird results in the matrix that Alex and I used for our description of Curacola, which is the matrix I still prefer for many things. The reason I like that matrix is that it was developed at the AMNH by the research group that I was a part of as a graduate student and I'm still a part of as a collaborator. And I know how many hours of firsthand specimen observation went into it. And so even though there are results that I think are probably, like, wrong, and I think we need to figure out why they're being generated, overall, it's a data set that I trust quite a lot, even though there are matrices for Silurosaurs that have more characters. I don't think that simply the fact that they have more characters is a reason that they should be trusted over the one that I am familiar with and can have worked with the people who generate. Right? This is important stuff. we've all done hundreds to thousands of hours of firsthand study to generate our phylogenetic hypotheses. Revising a matrix is something that takes literally years. For context, for Tyrannosaur stuff, I have worked for 3 years basically continuously to generate a new matrix, which I think will be submitted around the time this video is actually published. But
we can hope.
We can hope. This takes forever.
Yes.
It is hard. What Amelia's done for her PhD is a huge labor. But the fact that it's this difficult is why you generally don't see a lot of people revising matrices all the time. The situation with Mosasaurus is extreme relative to others, but generally there has been a slowdown in new matrix construction. And like Alex publishing his paper on Jungersuchus in 2020 is like a fairly rare example of a more modern, like, descriptive paper where a huge part of that was like, we got to reevaluate this. We got to build a new data set. Most papers are not doing that.
Yeah, and mine was largely a resampling of earlier characters, but a lot of matrices are. It's a lot of piercing. I'm not starting from scratch, but I am going through like, okay, what are these? Like James said, what are these are relevant? What are these are overlapping? What are these are dependent? And we'll go over what all of these things mean in a future video. So you too can learn to run a phylogenetic analysis, sort of.
Right. And at least learn how to know that ours are best.
No. James, we shouldn't play favorite. I also like earlier in the video when you allude to like anyone even mildly familiar with theropod systematics will immediately understand that is a specific dig at someone.
Yeah, that's fine.
I understood that reference.
If you're familiar with theropod systematics, you probably already know how to feel about that particular data set.
Fair enough. Square enough. Do we have anything more to say about Big Wet Lizard?
I mean, there's always more to say. I've been kind of trying to think of like what else is important to get through with Mosasaurus specifically. I mean, it's cool that they're everywhere. Like, it's cool that they're in the Seaway and the Atlantic. There's a lot of species of them. I've mostly talked about Huffmani and Missouriensis, but there's a couple. There's another North American one called Conodon that is a pain in the neck because it's a pretty scrappy holotype, all things considered. That's one that we have at the AMNH. There's another European one called Lemoniri. That's kind of an oddball. It's like a more slender version, I guess. Like it's an interesting animal. It tends to have a higher tooth count. One of them has this wacko situation where its frontals don't seem to be fused. I don't know what's going on with that. Sorry, I'm looking at my pictures. There's the lemon boy. Let me see if I can find the frontal one. And that's just for, well, I mean, it's published, it doesn't matter, but yeah, here it is. I don't know what's going on with that. They're not supposed to do that, but that one did. So whatever.
The one at the Carnegie is a lemon, right?
Mm-hmm.
By which I mean a Lemoniri, not that it's a defective mosasaur.
Well, there's anti-lemon laws in place now to help with that.
But there's Lemoniri. I'm trying to who am I forgetting? Hibetsuensis is the Japanese one. There's a couple cool no longer valid names, like Maximus was the name given to the one from New Jersey, but that seems to be Huffmani.
Return the V to Maximus.
Yeah.
I guess kind of you mentioned it earlier with Aegialosaurs, but kind of the world they emerge into is kind of an interesting, right? Yeah. They're late on the scene for marine reptiles.
Yep.
And they like diversified very quickly, right? They kind of just like show up and they're just like,
10 million years. You go from between Aegialosaurus and Tylosaurus is like 10 million years, maybe a little less.
Insane.
Well, right. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's because they're squamates and they're just going off, or if we're missing a lot.
It's like
probably both.
It's
Probably
like
both,
every
yeah.
single time one hatched out of an egg, every next generation was just a little bit fishier. A little. Every single individual one is just like, oh man, oh, weird.
There was an Innsmouth, Massachusetts on the Western Interior Seaway.
There we go.
Yeah, they're an interesting group for that like reason alone, right? Is like very rapid evolution, clear convergence. Like it's odd.
Sample size, sort of.
I mean, like
For fossil vertebrates, sample size.
I wouldn't say sort of, yeah.
So, I despite having it be my mascot critter in our logo and having worked on them, I don't actually know how long it took, like, critters like Pachycetus to get to
Like 10 million years.
Like 10 million
I was
years.
literally
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
the same thing.
yeah.
I just looked
Like-
up the ages of Pachycetus and Basilosaurus.
Whales kind of exploded into being huge and aquatic as well in a similar amount of time.
I was going to say is that it seems like a pretty classic adaptive radiation, right? This idea in evolutionary terms of like an adaptive radiation is when you get some key innovation and then that unlocks a whole range of new ecologies. And so evolution proceeds very quickly, right?
I think that's true for almost all marine reptiles, like ichthyosaurs.
I was going to
Kaboom.
say, I think all marine
Sauropterygians.
animals do this, right?
Kaboom.
Is this just something that happens with like major state changes? Like bats just kind of show up, right?
Well, and birds do the same. Pterosaurs seem to radiate extremely quickly.
Okay.
It is probably... This is probably just a thing that happens, and I don't mean that to, like, say just to minimize it, but like this might be a general pattern. When you unlock a new area or you can live in, or a habitat, I should say, or completely new way of life, the opportunities available to you explode, right? Sorry, Dalton, go ahead. I heard the sound in your voice of Amanda wanted to say something. Oh, okay.
But I was also going to say that this was making me think of, there's a talk coming up at the Peabody. I'm mentally predicting what this talk's going to be because it hasn't happened yet. But I have it's inspired me a bit. I like the idea of it. And let me just check what the title of it is. I think it's something like A World Without Evolution.
A graveyard.
The World Without Evolution. With Andrew Hendry, and I can speak nothing about what this talk will actually be, and I don't want to misrepresent Andrew's research, but the kind of conceit of the summary of the talk is that, like, it says typical considerations about rapid evolution and its importance emphasize situations where evolution is causing rapid change in organisms and environment. Hendry contends that the primary role of evolution is in resisting change. Evolution is why organisms look the same, not just across years and decades, but centuries and millennia. It goes on from that, and I don't want to misrepresent what he's saying, but I think this is kind of the idea of these adaptive radiations is an interesting flip of the coin a little bit of like, yes, evolution is what allows things to change. And these tend to happen when you get some key innovation or go into some new space where there's a lot of opportunity and you explode into it very fast. And then that really only seems unusual because once those spaces are filled, things kind of tend to chill for like a long time. And there's variations on themes in there, but it looks strange that things are operating this fast, but it's just because it's like so far outside of what's normally happening.
Right. I mean, like, for an example that's kind of like by analogy, think about like how the world changed so quickly with the advent of personal computers. Like, and I mean, many would say for the worse, but this is like, I mean, it's a fundamental change. Like, think about the number of different kinds of jobs and careers and tech that's developed and all of that comes when you can like have easily accessible computing technology, right? The world changed rapidly, and like our viewers are probably too young to remember this, but like I remember as a kid there were constant issues with like tech incompatibility with like gadgets you had. Like I would have things that had the wrong connector constantly, or I didn't know how to move files between different kinds of systems because to some degree everything was moving way too fast. Like I would have, this is not an issue now, I'm sure, with phones and the way that everything works and Dropbox and all of this. But like I would have assignments occasionally in like middle school, high school, where it would be like, but middle school is when it was worst, was like, make a movie about this or something. I'd be like, how the hell am I giving this to my teacher? Like, flash drives were too small to save a movie file at this time. I couldn't record something on a cell phone that would be easily shareable because the cell phone camera was crap and could not record a video of any significant quality. So it was like, use my parents' like mini DV camcorder that we use for home movies. Connect the thing to record to my computer, rip the thing off the DVD, lose a bunch of quality, put it into another program, like all of this kind of shit. And what I'm getting at here is like, now the ecosystem has more or less coalesced, right? We understand the tech we have USB standardization and all of that. But we were like existing in this time where we were in that more transitional period where there was a lot of new space and things were exploring it. It's analogous to what's happening what happens in an adaptive radiation, where you're getting, all sorts of new species that are like exploiting this new niche in different ways. And it seems like it's probably a rule that when you go from water or land to water, your lineage is like, oh, holy shit, this is kind of nice.
There's a lot of fish to eat.
Yeah.
Hey,
what's weird about it? What's weird about it to me, though, at least with Mosasaurus, is that it seems to be happening before the flippers. Like, these are just little wiggly guys that are going bonkers. Like, that's odd. It seems odd. I don't know. Like, I don't know why. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody else, like, it's the flippers, right? It's like that they're really like, all right, we're hardcore committed. I wonder if it's vivipary. If that's it, if they're just hanging out, chilling, and someone's like, hey, guess what we can do now? Because that is documented in an Agialosaur. Like, that's one of the first things that they do, apparently. Yeah. It's a Carsosaurus. It has 5 little babies in it.
I mean,
I think
because some of the Triassic things aren't super flippery, like ichthyosaurs, yeah, but the Latisuchians, Nothosaurs, they're all more, I think that they fit kind of nicely into that Agialosaur vibe, in my opinion.
Whales, I think, only do flippers once, but they also are definitely aquatic before they have a fully marine 100%. Body shape. And they're radiating fast from what I understand at that point. Like there's a lot of diversity that we're learning about. I think it's probably the habit and habitat more than it is the anatomy. Like it could be something respiratory that's allowing them to stay underwater for longer.
Yeah, well, that's why I said maybe vivipary is certainly helping, but they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a prerequisite for being a marine reptile, but I mean, it might be that.
But the thing I want to say also is that I think a lot of folks immediately jump to maybe they're diversifying because plesiosaurs are on the decline. But that doesn't actually seem to be the case, at least according to, I think it's also my committee member Polson that was leading that paper in 2014. My understanding of that paper is it does not seem to be related to plesiosaurs at all.
Yeah, I believe
seems
that.
To be, it seems to be whatever is going on in that time is it the Turonian or whatever's right before it?
It's hot. The water's too hot.
Is Cenomanian
right, exactly.
through that whole time, right? Cenomanian is a high stand of the seaway, right? There's some sort of really rapid warming event, probably.
There's that, and I remember, hopefully this is right, I remember them saying that it seems to be, I think they called it bottom-up productivity. That because of the environment, the plankton and everything at the bottom of the food chain was super abundant, which just kind of cascaded upwards and kind of enabled them, the mosasaurs, to exploit the niche because there's more fish, there's more things for them to prey on, there's more opportunities for them. Rather than avoid being left by plesiosaurs, there was just new opportunities for them to pursue. Yeah, because they did overlap briefly. I mean, some of them, I mean, the polycotylids did for sure, but I guess the big Chronosaurus-esque pliosaurs were less common, but they're still around.
Yeah,
there's that one.
Yeah,
they're still around. There's that big one from Kansas. Should you go to the Sternberg science camps in Hayes, they have a big model of I think it's Megacephalosaurus.
Yeah,
the big they have a big model of it in the entryway. That's super cool.
Yeah,
they're still around for a little bit.
I had a just a brief thought in this regard of rapid diversity in marine groups, which I do think is real, probably to some degree, quite a bit, in fact. But you know what, like the one group that I don't ever, and maybe this is just because I'm not reading as much about them, but like I don't remember hearing that like sea turtles are like a rapid radiation.
Well, that would require turtles to do anything fast.
But
also, pinnipeds,
I mean,
maybe?
yes.
I don't know.
I think pinnipeds are
like,
fairly young.
Okay.
I mean, I think turtles might be like, once they become turtles, they might be much more constrained than other things.
Yeah, they're in the
other
shell.
amniotes, just by virtue of their anatomy being so completely.
Sure. I mean, I think part of my curiosity here is like, what gives me pause whenever anything weird is happening in turtles with evolutionary rates or anything. My thought is like, hey, isn't their fossil record the only time like the collector's curve plateaus? Like
turtles,
maybe that's just like, or more so, maybe we're just missing too much of everything else. Like everything looks fast.
But I don't think we are in the case of like whales, mosasaurs, even like bats and stuff. It's not like if we're missing anything, they're not going to be like, we've got the ends.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We've got if the only thing we'd be missing is more of the beginning, and it would just be less specialized marine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I don't
we know it's like a 10 million years between Aegialosaurs and Tylosaurus. We know it's 10 million years between Pachycetus and Basilosaurus.
Right. And I mean, like with
the only thing that could happen is that gap would get shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Don't wait. Sorry. Just because I had an internet hiccup, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just looking up something about the evolution of seals, and I do not know a lot about like pinnipedomorpha. But like even outgroups to pinnipeds, whoa, wait a minute. So some people apparently put amphicyonids with pinniped like as sister to pinnipeds, pinnipedomorpha.
Really?
Yeah, but like you get like
That's
early
cool.
otter-like things before
Neat.
they seem to be aquatic specialists. I guess what I'm saying is like I don't know if Aegialosaurs are like exactly otter mosasaurs. Like if mosasaurs were pinnipeds, if they are like, you know, an otter equivalent, it's probably not an unfair thing to call them. But I feel like they're more like a seal equivalent, where they're probably primarily aquatic already. Right.
Yeah. Well, and
versus like a river otter, where it's like they're just kind of, they do like the water, but they are like clearly moving in and out of it a lot.
Well, because they're very different from lizards that do that, like Dracaena and the water monitors. Like those are still perfectly capable on land. Like the limbs of Aegialosaurs are much stumpier, and like it's clear that they're not a normal terrestrial lizard.
Right.
And I think the fact that that one at least was found with evidence of live birth, I think that also, like, not that it needs to have it, but I think that's also a good sign that they're spending most of their time in the water.
I'd agree. Personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. Although, I mean, I guess the only reason I would say maybe it doesn't is just, or rather that it doesn't need to correlate, is like squamates do live births so much. But
they do. Yeah, no, and like maybe, but it's, for me, it's more the body proportion. Like these things were not having fun on land.
Right. No, I
like,
mean, they look very silly
Are
for
any
life
of
on
us?
land.
Yeah, like, I mean, the second one, I sent 2 pictures of them in our chat. The first one is Aegialosaurus proper, and that one I would say, like, I don't think that thing, it looks like a skink, and I know that skinks are terrestrial, but they don't do it very well. You know, like they're always kind of like they feel very, I don't even know, they're very, very bumbly. Like they're just trying to get from point A to point B the best they can. But they've got their stupid short little legs, and so it's very silly looking.
Dalton, as a skink
that's the vibe I get
specialist,
from,
or as the skink man.
Skink.
Yeah.
Man.
Apparently the
Skinkman.
skinkman.
You're the skink man. Well, you've named a skink.
I have named a skink. I don't feel like it matters tremendously for the sake of the video, but I think I might actually disagree entirely.
about
That's
how
fine.
good skinks are at being on land?
No, I think that Aegialosaurs look like they'd be entirely capable on land.
I think they'd be capable. I guess what I'm saying is they don't look like Varanus.
No, they don't look like Varanus, but they look like Teliqua or even like some geckos. I mean, like I don't think these limb proportions are any like out of the range of any like typical terrestrial lizard I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, for the second one in particular, I agree with
Petiosaurus
that.
especially, but even
I was going to get to the second one and say it looked
even
more normal.
Aegialosaurus, like it's not. I would not characterize that as like if you just showed me that, I would be like, oh yeah, it's a regular lizard.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they
I mean, I could be wrong
perfectly
too.
sea otter mosasaurs.
But like, and again, for the sake of the video, I don't think my particular take here is necessary. Like, I don't need to sow discord.
No, that's fine. I think it's valuable. It's just like my opinion is, I guess I'm showing my bias in that I'm comparing these things to Varanus, which like have much proportionally longer legs, at least according to the measurements that I have in my data.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely do.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I'm coming from with that. Is just like they're trending a certain direction that is extreme in the true mosasaurs, which like the flippers are proportionally much shorter relative to the body than these legs are, with the exception of Megateregius, which is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So which like we can talk about very briefly in that Megateregius is the one that was described a year or two ago that possibly has evidence of a dorsal fin, which
cool.
it's hard to say, like, because again, like we talk about not having seen these things in person. Like I did review that paper. I don't think I'm anonymous. If either way, the first author knows that I reviewed it, so whatever. And like the trouble is just telling from a photograph if it's broken or not. But like ultimately, like I do like that. That author is very good, so like I trust his judgment. And if he says the anatomy is there, like I do trust him. The trick is that it seems to be, as far as I can tell, that the correlation of the shape of the vertebrae to dorsal fins and cetaceans is not very well understood. But it seems to be, my understanding is that all of them that do have that kink, so like the thing is not, there's a kink in the vertebra that they're proposing is associated with the dorsal fin. And in cetaceans, my understanding is that not all cetaceans with dorsal fins, with large dorsal fins, have the kink. But all the ones that have kinks have a dorsal fin. I mean, I guess almost all cetaceans have dorsal fins, but
it's few that don't.
So it's hard, but they don't all have the kink.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not.
Well, I mean, that is certainly not an argument against the conclusions of that paper. Then,
No,
like,
No.
if the conclusion is like, if you have a kink, you have it.
kinky equals dorsal fin.
Right. And the one hesitation that I had as a reviewer, which like I communicated, but also I believe they incorporate into the paper. But also this is a product of me not seeing the fossil, was just like, I can't tell if it's broken or if it's pathological. Which, and like the weird thing to me is that we have thousands of mosasaur skeletons and vertebrae and have never seen that before. That's why I would say I hesitate to say that they all had dorsal fins. Because in cetaceans, multiples of them have this morphology. But I don't know. It's soft, like, until we have a body outline of one of these things that doesn't have the kink, like, and this is a mosasaurine. So like, we kind of didn't talk about it really, even though that's what I'm shorting out. What the video is about. Mosasaurines, or the group that Mosasaurus belongs to, are, in my opinion, objectively the most diverse group in terms of
In
body
my
size.
opinion, objectively is a really interesting construction.
Are you are you a member of our Patreon?
I am. No. But not, okay. In the way that I would classify morphological diversity, which is not quantitative at all, based on their tooth morphology, flipper morphology, body size, and skull proportions, I would argue that mosasaurians are the most diverse, because you get Cladastes is kind of your little stock mosasaurine, and then you go from there, and you can either make a bulldog out of it with prognathodon, you can make a shell exploder with globidens, you can make this weird, huge-handed freak, Megateregius. I'm not insulting him. That's what his name means. But like, it has these huge flippers.
Freak?
You can make another freak with also relatively huge hands, which is Plotosaurus, which is just like I have no kind things to think about Plotosaurus because I kind of like Ichthyosaurs upset me, and it's trying to do that, and like I don't know why. I'm glad the asteroid put an end to that.
No,
because I don't want to know where it would have went with another 10 million years.
Really quick, Amelia, I just have a very, very quick question before you move on. I want to make sure. I know you have a lot of fun little nicknames and stuff for it. Does Megateregius actually have part of its name that legitimately means freak? Is that part of its species?
No.
Big fin.
Okay.
No, but it's big fin.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that bit. I figured that bit out, but I was like, is there a species name I don't know about that's just like
but
derogatory or something? Like,
but not derogatory, but well, we had a discussion recently about what prorigor may or may not, James and I did, at least over text. We're trying, because here, this is a different kind of mosasaur, but like in addition, Mosasaurus is not the only one with a weird, muddy history of its name. No one ever explicitly says what Tylosaurus means or what Tylosaurus prorigor specifically means. So we were trying to figure it out because James is a Latin pedant.
That I am.
And, right. So like the best guess that we have is that prorigor is prow bearing or something to that effect because of the snout and the other reasons that the point is you said there's an opportunity that Cope was being silly.
I think it was a pun. Yeah. I do think it was a pun. And may I say this in the video, or do you want me not to?
You can't. It's not in the paper submitted. It's not like
it's not
you're
in the
fine.
Paper. Okay. So
it's not in the paper.
So prorigor is not correct Latin for anything. Like that's not a construction that the Romans would have had. It simply does not exist in that language. I'm checking our text thread to just make sure I have the details right.
Yeah.
Did you see my Discord message?
Yeah. Okay. So prorigor with an I wouldn't exist. But there are two potential Latin words that it could be. It could be prorugger, like with an A, which would mean prow bearer. Or it could be proroger, which is a verb that literally translates to I would be extended. Like based on that Latin form.
I don't like that.
And there's a part of me that thinks it's a pun because Cope would have known Latin. And so it's like you make it something that's not either word, so it both means prow bearer and basically like the rostrum is talking and saying I'd be extended. I don't know. Or maybe it's a sex joke. It's Cope after all. I don't really know. But I kind of feel like it's a pun.
It could be because like, well, here's the other thing, because now you've all seen the holotype.
We have.
Yeah.
There's probably a pun in there. Like it's Cope and the holotype looks the way it does.
It does.
I think if any paleontologist in the Bone Wars saw that holotype and was going to think something about it, it was Edward Trinker Cope.
It would not have been Marsh.
It was not Othniel Charles Marsh recoiling in fear for reasons he doesn't understand.
He, in fact, would not be extended.
I guess the other question would be, could it have been an abysmal handwriting and/or telegram issue?
Theoretically possible.
That'd be funny.
It could have been because it was reported in proceedings of meeting. I believe it's literally a paragraph.
Because we learned at Nerves that one of Cope like named the genus that would become Uintatherium over telegraph. He like sent it to the society so that they could read it aloud so he could have a name. And like the telegraph operator just completely f***ed it, and the name was just totally bad and wrong, and so nobody used it.
That's so cool. I mean, there's a lot of explanations. Like, it's not like people frequently Latinize things correctly either. But I generally expect that like these old school academics who would have been like classically, educated in that way, probably would know enough to construct it correctly. And what's interesting
it
is
seems
like,
to happen less in the past.
Right.
The mistakes.
Yeah, and prora is feminine, which is what I was telling Amelia. There's a word armiger or armiger, if using the Latin pronunciation, which means arm bearer, in terms of weapons. Arma is masculine, so when it's shortened like that, it becomes an I. It stays an A as a feminine. So I would expect that Cope would not do that accidentally. I don't know. I just kind of want it to be a pun.
I want it to be.
I mean, yeah.
I feel like I like that.
Yeah.
I've decided it's a pun. I'm decreeing pun status.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyway,
here's the thing. Wait a minute. Cope got laid a lot. No. Cope got laid a lot. Is making a pun consistent or not consistent with that?
Ooh, it depends.
I think he was also an academic, and that's important to consider.
That's true.
Yeah, but academics were apparently hounds and cool, and they bathed somewhat regularly, so that put them
Not much of
As
a round
opposed to
on
now.
you.
I would.
Go on.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? I mean, James, you do say that these guys are they are classically trained and should know better, but these guys are all hypothetically anatomically trained as well and should know better about other things as well.
But nobody did.
So maybe they're also just bad at Latin.
It's possible. I mean, I'm not going to read too much into it, but I like the idea that it's a pun. Even if it's just that, haha, this could be either meaning, and I'll with them. I don't know. I feel like Cope would have found that funny.
I don't want to take. It seems you're having fun with it.
I'm having fun.
I don't want to take that away from you.
Thank you.
To finish my point, I don't really remember what it was. I think I was just making a point about Moses. Oh, because we're talking about dorsal fins. Given how diverse skeletally just mosasaurines are, and also the fact that these things evolved, let's say 3 times. I don't know what to say about halosaurs, but I'm pretty confident in the 3. It's possible that not all of them had the dorsal fin. It's possible it was just mosasaurines. It's possible it was just Megapterygius. We don't know. Right now, until we hopefully one day we'll find a body outline, which not to sidetrack fully, but we also have a lot of really good soft tissue mosasaur fossils, which I could talk about more when we actually rank this thing. But so far, unfortunately, though, we don't have that part of the back. The one that has the tail fin stops right before the back, basically. So mosasaurs not if you want to still draw your mosasaurs without the fin, that's fine. It's perfectly reasonable because we still don't really know if Megapterygius is a one-off thing or if it's limited to mosasaurines. And also Megapterygius is, I believe, derived. I think it's later. So it's in league with Plotosaurus and these other weirdos that are starting to really explore the boundaries of being silly in the water. As opposed to, my lovely Tylosaurus, which appears fully formed about 85 million years ago and then doesn't change until the Maastrichtian. And even then it barely changes. Which, we were talking about names. We can rank it. I don't think there's any more science to say about it. But names that are not a pun intentionally or derogatory, but Haenosaurus, the potentially other genus of Tylosaur, according to Sky McDavid, a friend of the channel who knows French, thinks that it might be derived from hate. So you could say it's the hateful lizard. And I'm that's really good.
That's so
true.
funny.
So, Amelia, you named, but our viewers may not be aware, but you named a mosasaur after a cool big water snake.
I did. That's
and I just thought, yes, and I thought before we get to the ranking, if everyone here could name a mosasaur after some cool big sea monster or water snake, what would yours be? Except for Amelia, who already did this, so she can't say. Big wet lizard.
I honestly think that something I can't fully put together exactly how it would become a name, but like I've always found like of all like the sea monsters and like lake monsters and stuff, I always found the one with the goofiest name to be the Ogopogo, and having that turning that into if you found like a mosasaur near Lake Okanagan, there was a new one.
Scott, I was also thinking Ogopogo.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one that I would go with would just be Tiamat.
Ooh, that's a good one. Is there a pterosaur named after Tiamat? Am I tripping? I'm probably tripping. Ignore me.
This is not itself the serpent or sea monster, but I think something referencing the story of Laocoon and his sons in the Trojan War is good, given that they got eaten by a sea monster. The snakes came out of the water and ate them because they were like,
you hate it when that happens.
They were like, there are Greeks in that horse. Don't let it in. And the Greek gods, watching out for the Greeks, and evidently not helping them out in any material way for the prior decade, were just like, oh, well, this time we can help, and summon serpents to immediately kill them. And then the rest of the Trojans were like, oh, that wasn't suspicious at all. These things happen all the time. Sometimes a man and his sons are standing in the shallows and sea monsters eat them immediately. Let's not look not further into this.
They weren't even that big. They were just like kind of big snakes.
Yeah.
In all the art, yeah.
Okay, fine. For an Aegialosaur or something, I guess.
That's always been very funny to me, is that just the incredible density of the issues that the Greek gods essentially solve or just deal with by turning someone into a snake, something snake adjacent. It's just like, we can only help if the solution to your problem can involve snakes.
How involved can the snakes be in this whole thing?
They do snake law.
They're like Aquaman. It's just like, is this going to involve the water? Can we make this involve snakes?
Oh, it seems that that Tiamat has been designated as the genus of a titanosaur.
Oh,
I would spell it with one letter difference. No, I don't.
Unfortunately, that's kind of cool.
That's kind of rad.
No, it's a good name. I'm glad it's been used.
And there are two other mosasaurs that are already named for sea monsters, which are Kaikai-Flu and Taniosaurus.
Oh.
I don't know these sea monsters, but cool.
I don't know them offhand. I just know that that's what they're for.
Also, the Amelia, the one that you said, is the nickname of your guy there. That's a cool one.
Oh yeah, Charybdis.
Oh yeah, that kicks ass.
I've got a list of some good. There's also like the list of like names we almost gave to Yorgi instead, or like if the ICZN or if someone was going to throw a fit about us calling it Jormungandr, like we had a backup list of things, and I don't remember the exact spelling of it, or I think it was something like Grafvitner or something, which was like Gravedigger, and I'm like, that's really fun, and it's some other beast from the mythologies and stuff, but that one.
Ooh.
I think it'd be
that was
good.
I think my favorite like second choice.
It'd be good to have a mosasaur named something with the suffix worm, WYRM.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
I think I'd do something with Rahab. I think it's a CH sound. RACHAB or RAHAB.
Is this something Gnostic?
No, well, no, not really. It's
that's
it's the sea monster God kills to create the universe.
Oh,
in Jewish folklore.
Jeez.
Which seems like the coolest possible sea monster you could like. It's the thing that existed before God made the world. What was living in the waters that God did creation over.
Right.
And he wrestled it.
It's like reverse Yorgi. You kill the serpent to start the world instead of the other way around.
Right.
Inverse.
Or I don't know, like Leviathan or Luan, I think.
Labu?
Actually,
Leviathan is already a thing.
Leviathan's already a thing.
There's
okay,
tannin.
hold on, but there's another word for... I thought there was another term for Leviathan that maybe would like let you sneak that in.
Are you thinking of tannin?
I was not. What's that from?
Tannin is a Hebrew sea monster in Canaanite mythology. It's a symbol of
kicks
chaos
ass, but
and
no,
evil.
it wasn't. Oh shoot. Other name.
You know, I've been thinking a little bit about Laocoon now and how I thought the story in the Iliad, or I guess that's only in the Odyssey. But I've been thinking about how I thought it was silly, and I've realized this is basically how we respond every time Boeing kills somebody.
Lotan.
Like somebody will be like, "Don't get on that plane, it's dangerous," and then they die, and we're all like, "I don't know what that was all about."
Back on the
Anyway,
planes.
let's board.
James, that's so funny.
Right? That's exactly
Holy-
what we do. Right? He's like, there are Greeks in the horse. And then he gets
That's
immediately eaten as soon as he says it. And the rest of the Trojans are like, no, okay, that's weird. Anyway, let's bring that in. This proves nothing.
That's so
hold on, now
funny.
I'm cooking. You
Please
could do you could do, because now I'm thinking about goetic demons. You could do Vespar or Fornius. Fornius is one of 72 demons that takes on the appearance of a sea monster, and also I think it'd be very funny because Fornius is a funny name.
Well,
All right.
should we rank Mosasaurus
Yeah.
and talk about
Yes.
the design of it?
Or as Amelia clarified, because it's technically not really like, is that Mosasaurus? I will be calling it Fornius.
Well, should we rank Pisces?
Well, I
Let's rank
would
Pisces.
call it Mosasaurus, which like I need to turn my Jurassic World back on so I can rank it appropriately. I'd argue that this is diagnostically Mosasaurus.
Wow.
And I'd argue you could pretty confidently call it Huffmani if you wanted.
Wow. Big Paleo stepping on the little guy again.
I know.
Oh no. Oh, I just had a terrible idea, James.
What's that?
Well, you know how we have, and spoiler, this can even be in the video, or maybe not. I don't really care.
Should
You know how there is a ridiculous amount of small dinosaur material from the Morrison that that could be named?
Yes.
Do you think we could stretch that into 72?
Oh my god.
Can we do the entire Ars Gotia?
all of the
We get only the first 5 or 6 of them are any good and make any sense, and then the rest are just fragment of tibia. It's long, like this guy's name.
it's cool. Like we thought this guy's name was. If we had something that was convincingly an early Alvarezsaur, I think it'd be fun to name that Stolus.
Oh, or honestly, like a stem owl or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, there are those huge, long-legged owls from
Yeah,
the Caribbean. That's
they're
a wasted opportunity. Those should be.
Yeah, they're from oh god, the Cuba, right?
Cuba and Hispaniola, I think the giant terrestrial owls.
Yeah.
We were gonna get terror birds, but the stealthy build.
It's basically just troodontids again at that point.
Yeah.
I think these would have been more like wise stilt men.
I think they would have been a little more disturbing.
Stilt men.
Because they would be on stilts, but then it would be a barrel, and then the top of the barrel would open about 66% of its width, and it would just be a big mouth, and then your pet dog would disappear into the hole, and you would never see it again. And you would go, "What was that? Was that a demon?"
Yeah.
It was.
Basically.
All right. Well, here we are, folks. Here we have it. Mosasaurus.
Yep.
Mosasaurus.
Can you zoom in on just the side? I just want to see what kind of skin texture they give it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
give it. Yeah, it looks like they don't. Well,
It's just kind of
I don't see
smooth with some
skill.
bumpities.
Yeah.
Elephanty, almost.
What does Mosasaurus skin look like?
Yeah. Okay, so I would say, well, granted, it'd probably be a pain in the ass to model it at this scale. We do have Mosasaurus scale impressions, and they're consistent in at least two different blades, if not three. And they're consistently like tiny little diamonds, kind of like snakeskin. They have a little keel down the middle of them. But that I can understand would be ridiculous to model at this scale. So honestly, that's fine. We have no evidence that they had big spiky croc osteoderms. And quite honestly, that's really my main nitpick with this design. Even then I kind of don't care because they don't feel too disgusting. Like they're not too over the top especially in the movie. Like I guess this is the game. I shouldn't think about the movie, but in the movie, like they didn't bother me. They didn't distract me. It just looks like texture and it's fine. From a communication standpoint, it's a little annoying because it makes it harder for people to make the lizard connection because they're thinking croc, but also, like, granted, most people don't realize that crocs are not lizards. So, you know, what are you going to do? The other thing that bugs me a little, if you could zoom in on the face, is that the teeth stick out like a crocodile, although they're not that bad, actually.
No.
Yeah, okay, so they shouldn't stick out at all, but they're actually not that bad. I'm gonna send a photo in our chat. So Mosasaur teeth, I don't think we didn't talk about this. Fast fact, Mosasaur teeth are really weird for a lizard in that they have sockets, which other lizards, to my knowledge, don't have. Some of them have like pseudo-socket situation, but it's nowhere near as well developed as it is in these things. The other thing that they do that, to my knowledge, other lizards don't. I'm going to send this picture, might not be ideal, but their teeth interlock very precisely. And so there's a couple consequences of that. One is that they probably didn't have the big, thick gum tissue that modern lizards have. So that's actually something that is not terribly wrong in this thing. They don't stick out, to be clear. They would have had lips covering their teeth, but they wouldn't have had the big gum tissue. We know that based on the interlock and some other evidence that I can't talk about. But they would not have had big, fleshy lizard gums. The other consequence of that I think is in part because of the teeth interlocking like this is they have pretty locked in tooth counts. And so earlier I said that you could diagnose this as Huffmani. What I mean by that is that, at least based on this toy, I don't know based on this model, but I think in still images of the movie, the dentary and maxilla tooth counts are match the holotype. So they are 14 and 12. Like I said, most of our tooth counts are pretty not variable. I don't know if it's because they're interlocking or if something else going on, but they just don't. Like there is variation, but it's usually a factor of 1 or 2. In Mosasaurus specifically, the number, at least Huffmani, the number is 14 in the dentary, and that does not vary. In the maxilla, I've seen in my data set 12, 13, and 14, I think. The pterygoids should have 8, which this does not get right. It gives it 4 on either side. And that also like doesn't vary. So that leads me to believe that it's actually not the interlock involved at all, because the pterygoids also don't interlock with anything. Those are the bonus teeth on the top of the mouth that we actually didn't talk about. But anyways, in terms of like skull proportions and body proportions, this thing is like dead on as far as I can tell. Like the flippers are a little weird looking to me, but also like Mosasaurus flippers are the more derived, very bony paddle kind of situation. I'm used to looking at Pilosaurs, which kind of just have a long hand. These things do the weird, knobbly hyperphalange, like they're starting to do the ichthyosaur thing where they're getting very bony.
Horrible.
And that's a diagnostic thing of Mosasaurus is I think their first metacarpal, it looks like a capital I. Like it's very squashed. The way it moves, like I really like, it's not super wiggly, but it's not stiff as a board or stiff as a whale, which some depictions like to do, which I take issue with because these things are lizards. It's also not too fat or blimpy, which is another thing that I think, like nowadays, all we have for something of this scale living in the water is whales. And whales have blubber and they're big and pudgy and they're kind of like, they're more stiff, than a regular lizard, I guess you could say. This thing doesn't suffer from that, which is great in terms of vibes. I think it nails it. And also from a distance, like seeing this thing here, The spikes on the tail, I really do think they're trying to give it the fluke just differently. Like they're stylizing it. The silhouette is right.
I agree.
Okay, sure, it's spikes, but I don't care. They're giving it the right silhouettes. They're giving it a paddle, like at all. Like that's great. And you could be pedantic and argue that we don't have a tail fluke for Mosasaurus. The one that we have is for Prognathodon, but like there's pretty good evidence that they all had that. Which also, like, side note, another convergence is that tail fluke, because there's pretty good evidence that Tylosaurus has it too, and that's objectively not at all related to these things. It's great. I love it. And so we kind of alluded to earlier, I think the depiction of this thing in the Jurassic World movies was so important for, maybe not important isn't the right word, but it's definitely been impactful, because like and I know I've probably said this a million times now, but every time I give a talk to school kids or like really the public, like I don't have to tell them what a mosasaur is. Like they know what it looks like because they've seen the trailers. They've seen the thing that jumps out of the water and grabs the shark. Even if they've not seen the movie, they know that thing. They're like, oh, the one in the water. I'm like, yes, the one in the water. And like, that's really important. And like, I've noticed, I mean, I say noticed, but like, well, no, I'll say noticed, because there's been in the past, I'd say in the time that I've been a graduate student, there's been a noticeable uptick in younger people interested in mosasaurs, or paleo enthusiasts interested in mosasaurs. And I think that's a factor of these kids that saw these movies growing up are now becoming, adults that are online and engaging in these conversations. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's because of these movies, because these movies put such a spotlight on these animals. Sorry, the cat jumped up here and is wet, and I don't know why.
That's not a good sign.
We love when that happens.
I love asking why are you wet.
There's two options for him, right? It could be something gross, or his activity that he enjoys is sitting in the shower. Anyways, there's been an uptick in interest in these things. And also because like the depiction of it in the movie it always kicks ass. It's always the best scenes. Like in every single one of the Jurassic World movies, it's been some of the best scenes. Like in the first one, the whole aquarium sequence kicks ass. In the second one, the entire opening sequence kicks ass. And in the last one, it opens with it. And like, granted, we were all feeling crazy because we were coming after dinner and after seeing Jeff Goldblum unexpectedly, but like the introduction to Dominion, like regardless how you feel the rest of the movie, of this thing like breaching and grabbing a crab pot and pulling a ship into the ocean is so cool.
Well, and it ends with it making friends with some whales.
It ends with it implying that this was the single cat that destroys the entire native bird population, but for the world's cetacean fauna.
Right, but that's my least favorite of its scenes, honestly. In Fallen Kingdom, it ends with the surf scene, which also like kicks ass as a shot. I love it. It's so funny. It's ridiculous, but like all it does is show up and be cool, and I think that helps a lot. Clearly it has, like and it's made it into the new one, right? So there's enough interest to keep it around. They had an opportunity; they could have swapped it out for an inferior marine reptile like a plesiosaur or an ichthyosaur, and they didn't. They kept it around. Yeah, no, it kicks ass. I love it. As far as like a stylized version for Jurassic goes, I think it's fine. It's not terribly ugly. In the movies, it looks great. In this game, it's a little scrunklier in the game, and I wish they had a little bit more fun with the patterns. It just is always kind of dull, but the silhouette is really good. And we never touched on body size. Long story short, we don't have a complete skeleton of these things. So like there's like maybe 2 or 3 of them. None of them have been measured, or like the proportions have not been calculated for these things. So there's no way that any body size length estimates of them are accurate. But I do not think that, 60 feet is out of the realm of possibility. Like we have skulls that are almost 2 meters long. They're big animals, and Tylosaurus we know was pushing 50 feet. These things, like their heads are proportionally bigger than Tylosaurus, so probably similar. Even though the heads tend to be bigger, the whole body was probably similar. But we have to remember that like the fossil record is incomplete. We don't necessarily have the largest one to ever live. I don't think any of these things were getting to be like blue whale sized, because that's a little ridiculous. Or when we have no evidence of that. It's not impossible, but I doubt it. But I think at least the first movie. What is the estimate? Like 60 or 70 feet? I don't know.
They said it was 60 feet on the website, but it was not in the.
Okay.
In the movie, it's got to be at least
So
200 feet long.
So, okay, the website says 60 feet. I think that number is plausible. Like, absurd, but like, there's an individual bone, so which is very helpful, of course, for calculating body length. It is, but not when you don't have any complete skeletons to base it on. There's an individual bone in Maastricht that's like massive. It's ginormous and would be closer. It would be closer to 60 feet than not. But without the rest of it, without more skeletons of these things that have more confident ratios and stuff, because like we don't know. We don't know how big they got. Mosasaurus. We don't know how big Mosasaurus got. Any estimates that you're seeing are probably based on Tylosaurus, which is a very differently proportioned animal, or they're based on Clidastes or Prognathodon, which again, more closely related, but they are very different proportionally, and so I wouldn't trust those estimates.
And just, sorry, as a quick follow-up to this, the model is like that 60, 70 foot long
in-game
on the website. Yeah.
Yes. I just did some really good math in which I took my fingers and held them apart. And I took about as much of the mouth as Zara fits in when she gets eaten in the movie. And I just said, I'm just going to make that like 5 feet. Probably should have made it 6. But when you make it 5 feet, this thing is about 55 feet long. So this thing's probably in the 60, 65 foot range in game.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's why he's also almost a doctor, folks.
He's doing the dead babysitter math.
What?
Because that's the babysitter. She gets eaten. That's who he used.
I didn't hear the sitter part of that.
Oh, sorry.
I just heard he did the dead baby something, and
Isn't she like a business lady though?
She's Claire's like personal assistant.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and
she's always referred to as the babysitter in the discussion over her weirdly involved death scene.
Yeah, that she asked for.
Actor specifically asked for. Yes.
Oh, did she?
You mean
that's funny?
Like one of the most fun parts of the movie.
Perhaps the only fun part of the movie.
Yes, everyone's like, it's so cruel. And like it's a movie about dinosaurs eating people.
I think it just stands out because none of the rest of the movie ever even approaches the idea of edgy.
It is also funny. There was
the first Indominus scene's pretty good
for a very short little tiny soapbox. There was a TikTok I saw a little bit ago that was talking about like why that felt so out of place, and it was like most of the gruesome deaths and really bad ones are reserved for characters who've done something like seemingly egregious in the scope of the movie. And I just popped in the comments. I was just like, Eddie Carr gets wishboned by T-Rexes and he was trying to help save his friends while he's screaming, getting torn in half.
Yes, but I think
Sam Jackson gets murdered for just
the two rules
trying to turn on like a light switch.
I think the two rules for a Jurassic Park franchise death are that you are either a bad person getting your comeuppance or you're trying to help the other main characters.
Yeah.
And I think it is perhaps even as simple as she wasn't really doing either. She was just trying to she was like in the beginning of trying to get the kids to safety, but didn't like get to sacrifice herself. She just gets picked up. I think that's why the audience responds that way. I don't particularly,
fair.
I have much better things to do with my life than care about Jurassic World. Except every Thursday night when
that's Jurassic World Evolution too.
Yes. No, you have different pointless trivial things to work yourself up into a frustrated frenzy about.
Oh, name 5, Alex. Actually, please don't.
Would you
cease your protestations?
Anyway, this is all a very long-winded way of saying I like it a lot, and the things that I say are quote unquote nitpicks don't bother me because I just don't care. Like it's a movie design, it's a Jurassic World design. As far as Jurassic World designs go, it's good, but also like I think I said earlier, like it's got the right vibe about it. It just feels right. Like the way, obviously, I mostly think about the movies because I don't play the game very much, but like the way it moves and interacts with things, like it very much feels like dude's just vibing. Like just kind of vibing. Every now and then has to kill something, which is basically what Mosasaurs were doing anyway. So it tracks. I'll give it an S. It's iconic. It's the first like real big pop culture mosasaur, and it was. I think it's going to be really important for getting future folks to care about them scientifically.
It is like, I don't want to say the hero of Jurassic World, but it is like what like the original Rex was like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Before they turned it into like a big dog,
a C-Rex, if you will.
No, it's this. This is the force of nature that intervenes and saves the pitiful humans' lives.
Right,
and the lives of the two dinosaurs we care about.
Yes, but only by but exclusively by accident, driven only by a desire to snack.
Yeah, that's true. So I'll rank it now, and I'll talk for a little bit less time than Amelia. I like it. I think this is the only new Jurassic World dinosaur used loosely here. I should say just movie monster design that I like. Indominus Rex is fine. I think it's like too boring to have a lot of a feeling about. I don't like the idea of the hybrid dinosaurs as a plot point that much, so I don't really like Indominus Rex as a symptom of that. I think most of the other new designs are bad, but this one is good. This one doesn't feel out of place as a Jurassic Park design. I think if you took away the croc osteoderms, this would fit very well in the original Jurassic Park series, which, in my opinion, just has a much better and consistent design language than the Jurassic World franchise, which I think often looks... Oh no, I'm having feelings about Jurassic World. Whatever shall I do? I think it's great. I think this is an S-tier design. I will say that anecdotally, this was always my favorite marine reptile to put in my parks. There is something that feels like naturalistic about it in a way that even the new, like, even the designs that the game has that are more accurate anatomically don't have that level of life to them. Like, this is good. This is really good character design. I do really like it. I do wish it didn't have osteoderms, just because I don't know. I'd like to see something new in this franchise that doesn't have osteoderms all over it.
Well, you're in luck for the squeakquel.
Well, I was going to say, the Mosasaur in the sequel looks amazing to me. Like, I mean, it's still too big for sure, but just like something about the way that its body is rendered, like it definitely gives whale in some way, which I don't know if that's like right or not, but it certainly feels like an aquatic animal that's real. I'm very excited to see it. That said, I think this is a good stylized version of a Mosasaur, and I think it's going to get an S tier for me. It's great. They were really cooking when they did this one.
Yeah, I'll just come right out and say it. I think that this one gets an A for me as well. It's got stage presence in the way that a lot of the other ones just don't. Like, it's a big deal when it shows up. And it's rad. It's really cool. I, again, kind of wish they didn't have the osteoderms. That I'll make the point as well of that, like, besides just, like, oh, we don't really have evidence that they had osteoderms. I'd even go so far as to, and Alex can correct me if I'm off base on this, even it seems like the crocodilians that went fully marine lost their osteoderms in that phase. Is that right? Mostly? Okay.
The superest duperest of like the geosaurs and metriorhynchoids do. The teleosaurs don't, but are also still probably pretty marine. But
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It works.
Yeah,
it checks out. It passes mustard.
Okay. All right. So, like, it seems like this is something that, like, even if hypothetically these were to have osteoderms early in their evolution, by the time they were whale-sized lizard monsters, they probably wouldn't have had them anymore. And so, like, but that's a nitpick. I remember, like, when I went to go see this movie, one of my friends that went to go see it with me afterwards, after the first question being, what the hell was that T-Rex pterodactyl hybrid thing? And I was like, I think that was supposed to be Dimorphodon. The next question they asked was like, wait a minute, did I see that correctly? Do mosasaurs have like extra teeth on the roof of their mouth? Do they have like a second alien jaw thing going on? I'm like, yes to the first thing, no to the second. But it was cool. Like, it has fun little details that people remember and think are just like, wow, that's rad. It's so cool. I love it, and it's iconic for a good reason. I also am looking forward to the visual update in the new Jurassic World, but yeah, this thing's a classic for a reason. A.
Oh, it's my
It's
turn.
you. It's
That
you.
it is.
Sorry.
You go now.
I go now.
They go now?
They go now.
Go now.
This is good. I give it an A. So like in the movies, especially in the not as strong part 2 and 3, and actually Dalton, someone reshared that thread on Twitter today of the guy who was like obsessed with like the Jurassic World films, and it's like a dozen screenshots of his posts and him like being super excited to get Dominion tickets, and then like him posting his 1.5 star review for Dominion, and a very sad series of posts.
Oh, that
It's
is
like,
sad.
That's one of the worst things I've ever seen. What happened?
I don't understand how you. I do not understand how you like Jurassic World and then also like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and then don't like Dominion, because Fallen
know.
Kingdom is so clearly the worst of the entire franchise, but that's beside the point.
Yes. Anyway, but yeah, it's every time the Mosasaurus isn't on screen, people should be asking, where is he? Where is Mosasaurus?
Is he safe?
I give it an A. It's so this is interesting to me because when I feel like, it's like it's not that I don't care about mosasaurs. I think they're pretty neat. In fact, they also have cool palettes, which makes them cool. But it's not a group I work on. And so like paradoxically, I am like less forgiving of design weirdness. There's like a weird zone where if it's something I'm interested in, but I'm interested in like the way they play with it, I can tolerate it. This is a group I'm a little less connected to, even though I do think they slap and I do like Monsters of the Sea. But my issue with it is like the risk they took was like, osteoderms feeling daring today, aren't we, sir? And it just does not a lot for me, because I think that based on the shape and the batitude of this animal, which is what it has, I'm almost tempted to say an S, but it's just, there are just a few things that don't click for me, so I'm going to give it a high A.
Yeah.
I hope Amelia, I haven't upset you.
No, that's fine.
Oh my god, I just shot a guy and his legs flew off.
What
Sorry,
are you playing?
I got a big gun in Cyberpunk that holds only 6 bullets, and you have to have reinforced titanium bones to use it.
That's so cool.
It's so sorry. Dalton.
Yes. No, it's now my turn to talk about this, but I'm checking something online very briefly.
The lore, the canon.
No, I'm checking something on Morphosaurus, but it's just I wish I could open the file. It would make things much easier if I could. In fact, if you would indulge me, I'd like to open a file. But I'll speak on my rank as I do so. I just have to find my extra hard drive.
On Morphosaurus?
Well, it's a CT scan, but the Morphosaurus viewer is so slow, and I have a copy of it. Where's my hard?
What is it a scan of?
It's a scan of Shittysaurus.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to say something, but I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and look like an asshole.
I respect it.
Considering I'm supposed to be an expert on these things.
You don't have to be until May 6th, Dalton.
There are 12,000 of them. I think you're allowed.
Yeah, but there's only one Shinisaurus. Well, there's a few probably, but only one genus of Shinisaurus. Anyway, so yeah, I like this design a lot. Also, much like my my colleague, I am a fan. I think I like Alex and perhaps less like Amelia is. I'm more bothered by the osteoderms issue. There are no issues, Riverside. I'm more bothered by the osteoderms, but I'm less bothered by them in the movie than I am in the game. Like Amelia said, I've been watching clips from the movie just to refresh my memory. And a couple neat things that I've noticed is one, like the model here, more or less, I think in the movie when its mouth is closed, you can't see its teeth. The issue is just you almost never see it with its mouth closed.
Right.
And when you
Why have that on screen when its mouth is closed?
Yeah. When you do see it with its mouth closed, it is closing them around something that it's eating. So it never like gets the entire thing closed. But from what you can see when it like eats the shark, and a little bit when it eats Zara, you don't see its teeth, which is a nice touch. I think, again, I also am a fan of kind of the svelteness of this, the way it moves. It is very good. I like that a lot. And in the movie, what I'm going to say, and hopefully this will load fast enough for me to not have to vamp too much. Ya-ta-ta, ya-ta-ta-da. It's old Gil, folks.
What's happening?
Oh, geez, come on.
I need
Dalton.
this.
What's taking place?
I'm trying to open a scan of Shinisaurus.
Hey, come on.
And the reason I'm trying to open this scan, I'm opening a scan of Shinisaurus to confirm something. And the reason I'm doing so is when you watch the movie, the osteoderms are much less pronounced than they are in this model, except kind of on the tail. And the tail ones I don't really have an excuse for. But the ones on the back remind me a lot of Shinisaurus, the Chinese crocodile lizard. And I don't know that was an inspiration. Because I think the much more obvious and likely thing is that they were inspired by crocodiles for this.
Cocodrilos.
But Shinisaurus has osteoderms, but I'm pretty sure that the kind of more crocodilian type scales on its back that look more crocodile-like are just scales that aren't invested by bone. And I become more comfortable just kind of imagining these in the movie as kind of tubercle, like big tubercle scales. And that's what I want to check and see if these actually are just tubercles and not osteoderms, that they're not invaded by bones. So what I will say to that is that this design, coming straight out of Jurassic World for Mosasaur, is a huge improvement on the previous canon Jurassic Park universe Mosasaur that we knew about, which was the Tylosaurus in the Jurassic Park Telltale game. Which is a really cool sequence, and it's a fun design. I don't dislike the design, I want to say. I think it's cool, but I think it's also very ugly and does not look at all like Tylosaurus. And in this design here, it actually looks like Mosasaurus. You know, it's not perfect, but it's much, much closer. I don't think I'm going to get to open this while the game is running. My computer is yelling at me in a...
I've never seen the loading bar be red before.
Well, that's because this is the the viewer, not regular VG Studio.
Is this, you said this is the Morphosaurus one? I'm going to see if it loads on my computer. I do not remember seeing, because this is the one that I scored.
Mm-hmm. Like, I know it has cephalic osteoderms and like osteoderms around the head.
Yeah.
But I think the tubercles are scales.
Man.
And then what about the other thing that I think about when I think croc scales in a lizard is Dracena.
The osteoderms?
Do you need to see its palate? I'm sure I have its palate.
No, I have. I don't need to see its palate.
Are you sure?
I am sure. I think Dracena does a similar thing, that those are also not osteoderms. They're just kind of big scales. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at some literature. I'm decently confident, though not wholly so, that at least not all of those are osteoderms. Some of those might have scale like bones in the scales. But
Okay, and Shinosaurus too, like they seem to be more random.
mm-hmm. So, I guess I'm opening myself up. I'm exposing my weak spot. Come at me, herpetologists. If I'm wrong, I don't want to hear about it. Actually, keep it to yourself. But it reminds me of Shinosaurus, and I don't think those are entirely osteoderms. And that's what I'm also taking to be the case in the new Mosasaur in the upcoming film from the design we see. It has a few kind of less regularly dispersed bumpities on its back that I am interpreting as enlarged kind of tubercle scales. And do we have evidence for those in mosasaurs? No. But they are present in anguimorph lizards. And so I don't think they're wholly inappropriate to put on mosasaurs from time to time.
Okay, Dalton, I've got the Morphosaurus. There seem to be osteoderms on the neck and the tail.
Yes.
But not the body.
Okay, so there we go. Yeah. That's what I thought. Like they have osteoderms, but like the little, the back bumpities, as I'm affectionately calling them, are not osteoderms. In this, they're pretty clearly osteoderms, but they get a bit of a pass for being inspired by that. All of this, a very roundabout way for me to say, I'm going to give this an A as well. It doesn't. I think if it didn't have the really big osteoderms, especially on the tail, I might push it to S, but I can't quite get there. But it's an A for sure. You may ask what it's like to be near getting a PhD.
Shared the wrong one.
And the answer is, while you consider yourself to be quite knowledgeable on a certain subject, you're terrified of making a tiny mistake that some hyper-focused individual online might snipe at you about.
All right. Well, it seems to be that it's 4 A's and an S.
Yes.
2 S's, 3 A's.
2 S's.
Oh, yeah.
3 A's. Okay. Oh, that still puts it right up in A tier. Very good. Good plan for it.
Very quickly, for the record, Dracaena seems to have no osteoderms, according to the CT scan on. Okay.
Okie dokie. Well,
can we spin the wheel?
I think we should spin the wheel.
Hey guys,
I think we need to
I want to spin the wheel.
I want to spin his wheel.
For the very last time, it is time.
It's time
to spin
that wheel.
What's it? I like how it doesn't move, so it just stays.
Maybe it'll be.
Oh, it's another Chinese stegosaur.
It's T-Rex.
It's T-Rex. T-Rex is so cool.
Swyangosaurus.
All right. Did you enjoy? So the recording is 3 hours and 18 minutes at this point. Did you enjoy 3 hours and 15 minutes of Amelia talking about Mosasaurus? Well, get ready for 3 hours and 15 minutes of me talking about T-Rex next week. I will accept at this point if you cumulatively leave like $1,000 of tips on this video, we won't make the T-Rex one. We just won't do it.
That'd be so funny.
You can all save yourselves. Let me make it an amount that's too absurd to imagine. $10,000 and we won't make it.
God damn it, I was considering.
Alex
just giving us $1,000.
10,000 is too much.
Yeah.
Too rich for his blood.
Anyway. So next week we will talk about T-Rex. For those of you who have wondered if this was planned, both yes and no.
No.
Yes, in that we did hope that T-Rex would be last. Yes, in that we actually did not roll it. Like, it actually didn't come up until now, which is kind of funny. We thought we would have to game the wheel, and we didn't. And that's really fun. So T-Rex is last.
Just did that.
However, we did also.
The wheel just did that.
What?
The wheel just
did that.
The wheel just did that.
The wheel just did that.
And much like Tyrannosaurus, sometimes nature is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Isn't nature amazing?
Isn't nature amazing?
We did not ever spin Tyrannosaurus in a regular recording.
No, regulation
it was only,
spin.
you said when we respun Carno?
There were times where, because of recording issues, we had to re-record a wheel spin, which is what Amelia is referring to. And a couple of those times, while waiting to get the thing we had already gotten when we recorded, yes, T-Rex came up. So full disclosure, that has happened. But in terms of us sitting here spinning something to do the next video, it's never been T-Rex. And that's kind of astounding. The odds of that are minuscule.
They are.
They are. That's pretty crazy.
And if you want to learn more behind the scenes info like this and get more information on when we did have to game the wheel, which was not much at all, very rare occasions, stay tuned after T-Rex for the tell-all / retrospective.
Yes.
And I'm not actually joking about that. We are planning on that. Stay tuned for more information.
Yes, we will do kind of a summary video of this whole series. And then we will probably be moving on to bigger and better things for the channel. We are excited to make videos that are about how to do phylogenetics, which, let's just say, recent news cycles have indicated to us that people probably need some videos about how to read a cladogram.
Yes. I just want it in writing, and in writing as in on video.
Right.
This is me. This is Alex Rubenstahl. It is currently April 14th, a Monday. My vision of the future is that our retrospective video for Jurassic World Evolution 2 will come out, let's say, within 3 days, plus or minus the trailer for Jurassic World Evolution 3 coming out, and us having to cover that.
Probably, knowing our luck.
Yeah.
Almost certainly someone will have something very important happening.
I know. It'll be...
you know what it'll be? I'll be moving.
Yes.
Because that's coming up.
Yeah, you'll be moving. I think one of us needs to bite the bullet and just, like, have a kid so that we can induce there to be a new paleo media franchise we have to cover.
I just want it to be known that when this video comes out, that I'm either eating shit on this, or I demand you to burn incense and portions of your food in my name every Saturday evenings if you subscribe to our channel.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I've demanded that since the start. I just never thought I had to say it.
It's actually in our Patreon. It's in our Patreon.
It's in the terms and conditions.
Yeah. It should be. Anyway, we will. So yeah, we're going to do a retrospective. There may be other things happening, but we're going to probably move this channel a little bit away from purely video game or media discussion. I think we're all kind of interested in talking a little bit about the science in a more pure sense. Something maybe like that nerve video we put out a little while ago that seemed to get a very positive response.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is a good time to say, if you've got ideas for things you'd like us to try to do, leave them as comments. We might not do them, but if the ideas are good, we'll steal them and pretend we came up with them.
Some of you have paid.
Yes. Also,
have subscribed at the requisite amount to get a video made about something you want. No one has collected on this.
Yeah. Please feel free to tell us what you want your custom video request to be.
And I can tell you, dear viewers, that at least one of our upcoming videos will be a breath of fresh air.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. But as of now, our generous patrons who have been with us in some cases for nearly 2 years now.
Oh, God, Jesus, goddamn.
I know. Include insert nickname, Benjamin Siepser, Christopher Bellis-Jones, Aaron Anderson, Adam Olos, Blacklight Virus, Black Spectral Pig, Brett Booth, Camphibia, Chaotic Kaiju, Dinodom, Keenan Taylor's Tales of Chimere, Kevin Preem, King Zashu, Life Finds a Way, Noah Riccio, Resty HBK, Squat Pump, The Wigster, Touch Connors, and, Wheat Mrs. Website Baryonyx, and Yuv, who has superseded Wheat at the end of Yuv. YUV.
We love it.
You don't know about Yuv?
We Yuv it.
Okay.
Anyway, it was very weird to not say and Wheat at the end of that. I kind of feel unsteady. I feel thrown off my rhythm, but it's okay. You know why it's okay? Because I don't have to edit this video. Sorry, Scott.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being with us for this whole series so far. We're really excited to end it with our big finale next time. So stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.